Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
We're all here. What are we talking about today, Kyle?
Some games I played on 3DS and Switch, and some games Reiner played probably.
That sounds neat. Reiner, we're talking about Spyro, the Reignited Trilogy. You got a chance to play it?
No, see it.
See it. Okay,
Yeah.
but you put your finger
Don't
towards
spread
that
any
controller.
rumors around there.
I don't know what's going on with these. Kyle, you reviewed Sushi Striker and Dillon's Rolling Western the Third.
Will review Sushi Striker. Review Dillon's Rolling Western.
That sounds great. We're gonna get-
Dillon's Dead Heat Breakers.
All right. Mark your calendars, everybody.
It's already out.
There we go. Also, Jeff Cork's going to be coming on the show, talk about Far Cry 5's DLC. Talk about Dauntless. We're going to get Shay and Joe in here to talk about Vampyr and Project Octopath.
Vampyr.
Joe says officially it's Vampyr.
Really?
Yeah. It's
All right,
just
never
spelled
mind.
like it looks like Vampyr.
Okay.
In your mind, you got to say it like a Y.
Vampire.
Yeah,
no,
don't forget about it.
vampire. Just think about the Y.
Okay.
Vampyr, think about the Y, as they tell you all the time in that game. Then we have some great community emails. Then back after the show, we have an interview with the one, the only, Danny O'Dwyer from Noclip. Used to be at GameSpot for years and years and years. Now he's making these amazing video game
Haircuts.
documentaries.
No clips.
Yep, that's exactly it. But he just released his big documentary on the history of Bethesda. And he has one upcoming about Fallout 76. So exciting time for him, just to talk about video game documentaries, visiting game studios, all that fun video stuff.
He does good work.
Very good work. Just like Toys for Bob with the Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
Yeah, it's a game coming out
Yeah?
soon.
Okay.
3 games, actually.
There we go. What'd you see? What do you think?
I saw 2 levels from the first game, which is just self-titled Spyro the Dragon.
Okay. Did you get to see the cutscenes of them freeing the dragon? Okay, here we go. I love that first Spyro. Do they recreate the entire weird interview sections from the opening of Spyro? Because in the beginning, it was like they're filming a documentary. It was basically The Office with dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what inspired The Office.
Uh-huh.
That whole series. Ricky Gervais is a huge Spyro fan.
That's right.
Purple dragon tattoo. The wings on his back. That's why he's never shirtless.
But do they do that in the new one?
I did not see that. I only saw 2 levels, Hanson.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
we
not the intro.
I was sitting there watching over his shoulder, and it was they didn't start the game up for us. They had a build for us where they took us to 2 specific levels.
They had us
Okay.
close our eyes.
Yeah, that's right.
But you got to see the opening hub area, like the green area where you're running around, torching sheep, all that stuff.
Yeah. We saw 2 kind of simplistic levels. Toasty is one of them, which is the name of one of the villains you go against.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? Green Hill Zone? No, that's Sonic.
No, I don't remember.
Rolling
what
Hill.
it's called.
I can't remember the name, but
It
it's
wasn't one of the
those-
flying ones. It
It's
was one
from
of
the
no,
Artisan world.
There we
Both
go.
levels are from the Artisan world. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah.
But beautiful. So we all just played, or at least saw videos of Crash Bandicoot, right? The remastered games there. And those still held a lot of that same kind of essence in the graphics as Naughty Dog's games on PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And I think that's testament to Naughty Dog's ability to really add in a lot of detail even back then. And also the game being more linear, right? You're mostly running on a path forward or toward the screen, right? So they could pack in more detail. Spyro, they went more open environments, and that meant a lot less detail. So you would see things like a field of grass would just be a plain surface, maybe not even textured.
But when you cover it with those gems, baby, now we're rolling.
Yeah.
Now it's a good time.
So now, when you think about that, when you go to a PS4 or Xbox One and you're pushing that machine to the limit in terms of detail you could put in the environments, they look completely different. So it does seem like more of an upgrade visually than the Crash Bandicoot trilogy.
Yeah, okay. And I feel like the gameplay, I love Crash. Crash was my first love. Spyro came along later, and I love that first game a lot. I feel like the gameplay for Spyro is going to hold up a lot better than Crash's if it controls well.
Yeah, now you could use analog sticks.
Okay.
It's quite the innovation.
That's right. It's wild. For the first Spyro, at least. Yeah.
You remember you would turn with the shoulder buttons, right?
What it
The
was?
camera controls, right?
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
rotate the camera.
Yeah.
It was confusing.
But yeah, so now you have the modern sensibilities of controls that you would expect in Spyro. But yeah, it is the same type of gameplay. They didn't want to change too much. They wanted it to feel like a familiar, an old glove you are, right? But at the same time, when you look at it, it is, even the enemies are different. So they have new animations. So you'll see a sleeping dog, and you'll go kind of sneak up on it, and it'll kind of raise up its ear, kind of start sniffing around, go back to sleep. But when it moves, it is the exact same movements as before. So it will, the attack speed, your approach to them are all the same. but they're just so much more alive now.
Did you get to see the tiny specifics? Is what I want to know. Did you get to see the level with like an egg stealer in it?
Yes.
They're like, did they make like that same sound?
I think we were talking when we saw it.
No!
I think I was yelling at the screen because I hated them, and it brought back terrible memories of chasing them. Yeah, I was. Was I yelling? I don't remember.
You were very mad.
I think you said you were crying.
But yeah, we did get to see one. They look very cool now. Like
Badass.
thieves. Well, before they looked like, I don't know.
It's like a Jawa.
Yeah. Kind of. Like, and I don't even remember if they had animation or if they were just like kind of just sliding along the ground.
Anything works.
There's a little bit more of a bounce in their step. One thing that's changing with Spyro in terms of movement is they've put a little bit more playful bounce in his gait. So,
thank God.
You know, he used to be just tearing across the terrain. Now it looks like it's more of kind of a gallop. But it still looks good.
Good, yeah.
And you can still put your head down and go, fast. And that looks great.
I think this is secretly going to be, maybe not secretly, but it's going to be one of the best-selling games of the year. I think there's a lot more nostalgia for Spyro than people really know, or maybe it was seen as a kiddie thing, maybe even amongst journalists and stuff. There's a lot of skeptics out there and other gaming podcasts, not to point fingers, but those games were awesome. Insomniac did such a good job with those original games.
You got to point a finger. What direction is this studio?
What direction?
Yeah, of these people that are saying bad things about
that are
Spyro.
naysayers on
Spyro.
North,
Interesting.
West,
everything's west.
East.
Everything that's wrong about the world is to the west. I've said it 1,000 times.
You're off the hook, Dan Reichert.
Yeah.
One interesting thing they're doing is they're just called the dragons, right? Like the dragons that you're freeing. Like they were pretty consistent.
Elder dragons?
Elder dragons out there. Do you remember?
I don't know if they call them elder dragons. Maybe they do.
They were pretty consistent in the original game as far as like their design. Like,
I disagree.
Maybe a little bit.
No, it varied quite a bit. Dragon.
Well, they're digging. If that's the case, they're digging even deeper into that, and like they're redesigning those dragons in a big way.
Thank you for releasing me.
Is that that's
okay?
Clearly, the sound did not stick in my brain the way it did for you. But every single one is singularly designed and has specific things about them. Like one's like a painter, so he has like a painting smock and he's holding paint. And then another one. Do you remember? There was one that was like a barista that they showed us.
So like coffee.
That looks like
anything kind of tied to the artisan theme. So they really went for it. Like tons of them, like painters, sculptors, all that kind of stuff. So each dragon
hipsters
is
at coffee shops, like they really all look very different.
That sounds fun.
We didn't get to see them all in the game, but they showed us a lot of concept art.
Yeah, he didn't stop with the concept art.
It was cool though. Like it was interesting to hear them talk about like an original level. Like maybe the only thing in the terrain was like this one rock. You know what I mean? That like was
they
there.
thought it was a rock. They didn't know because it was such a plain shaded thing.
But so what they're doing now is like everything that they've like added detail to, it doesn't really affect the gameplay. Like you can see there's a real like little singular blades of grass, but it doesn't really change how Spyro walks through the environment. But like if there was that one rock in the original game that Spyro had to jump over, like that is still there, and now it's like overly designed where it has like it looks so much better. But they've maintained the sort of geography of the level.
There'll be times where it'll be like, we think this is a village. There's 2 huts here. They were going for like a village.
Yeah.
But, they would talk to Insomniac too. Like, were you going for this? And they're like, oh yeah. We really wanted to blow this out, but we couldn't. You had restraints. Or constraints with the technology. So they, they were able to. Toys for Bob was able to do whatever they wanted with it and really make it try to be that true vision.
So those huts look great now, but they're still like the exact same location and size that they were. They just have way more detail on them.
And the background might have more detail and stuff.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, just the videos and images they've released so far, it looks amazing. But do you have any sense of if they're tweaking the script at all?
Yeah, I think they have.
Spyro's been recast.
Yeah, it's a new
sort of.
Well, it's the same actor from 2 and 3.
It's Tom Kenny,
interesting.
right?
Yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants.
Because the thing was that with the first one, Insomniac, in retrospect, did not like the tone of Spyro because he kind of was like a little dick. He's like, "Where's Nasty Norg?" and all this crap.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see like how much Tom Kenny kind of softens that performance, or if they're going to tweak those lines even further to make it less grating.
But it has been all re-recorded, rewritten.
Right, of course.
I'm not sure. But
I want to say the dragons do have some new stuff, but I'm not 100% certain.
When is this coming out?
I don't remember. September?
Okay.
October?
Oh,
it looks
November.
So excited.
I'm not a Spyro nostalgic person. I don't really have any nostalgia for Spyro, but I will more interested in. I think it will, like you. I think it'll hold up better than like Crash. Like I'm interested to play these sort of kind of from a new perspective too, a little bit. One
thing they're still trying to figure out is because the grass is so much more detailed now. the gems that you were talking about before
Yeah.
were all on the ground. So now, like they were completely visible. If there was a gem there was nothing obstructing it.
Yeah.
Now the grass will be flowing next to it, so they're less visible. So they're like, would it be bad for us to lift them off the ground and have all the gems floating now?
Sacrilege.
But at the
Cancel
same
my
time-
pre-order.
At the same time, the graphics make it a little more challenging because one of the 100% things in the game is getting all the gems in a level.
Yeah.
But now they're a little harder to see, at least in the demo we saw.
like,
They're
good.
still debating if they're going to raise them up. But
Or if maybe they'll make them glow more
Yeah.
or something
God,
like
being
that.
a
you
game
know?
developer sounds so tough. Kyle, really quick.
Yeah.
It's Dillon's Rolling Western game on 3DS.
It's Dillon's Dead Heat Breakers, Hanson. I don't know why you're
What
so
is it?
confused by this.
These games have always been solid.
Well, okay.
Just
I
no one
don't-
ever talks
I
about
don't
them or
need to
ever is
explain who
enthused.
Dillon is because everybody knows who
Uh-huh,
Dillon is.
right.
He's that famous Nintendo character. So Dillon's an armadillo who's like he's thematically he's kind of like Old West sort of.
Right.
But this game in particular feels very like Mad Max Fury Road. Like it is an undeniable apocalypse. Like you're finding things that like old objects that they don't know what they are. Like I found a little desk fan. And the guy was like, "Oh, this is like a voice changer. People in the past used to speak into this to change
I
their
still
voice."
love that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
kind of like Pikmin.
Exactly,
Pikmin does that
yeah.
a little bit. So it is an apocalypse, and the game begins with you chasing down like a big 18-wheeler that is getting attacked by these rock aliens. So it feels like Fury Road.
Why do I distance this game and all of these games from Nintendo? Like, who's actually developing these dirty things?
Vanpool, but it's
Vanpool.
published by Nintendo. And the other thing is, Dillon is a trophy in Smash Brothers.
Right.
Like he's
He's got the
an assist
Nintendo
trophy.
blessing.
Yeah, like
Oh.
he's a Nintendo character.
is he going to be in the new Smash Brothers?
Probably just not as a fighter, I don't think. He's just like he's a trophy.
not?
You could throw him out and he would roll around the stage
Right.
and knock out enemies and stuff.
Sounds like a cool character.
Give Dylan
He's
his
cool.
due. So what is the genre for this new game?
So it's kind of tower defense, a little bit of like Dynasty Warriors, a little bit of
What?
strategy.
But before I thought it was kind of like a Zelda thing, wasn't it?
There's a little bit of Zelda in here. I actually reread Tim's review, and I think maybe for the first game specifically,
Yeah.
because I reviewed the second game, but the first game I think maybe was like closer to that sort of Zelda style, where you were
Okay.
exploring a little more. But here, like imagine a Dynasty Warriors map. You start, you have these gunners that you've hired that are based on the Miis in your system and
They
your
live
friends
right.
list.
I don't like this.
They
Well,
live.
and the cool thing that they do that I like is like they actually put these. The best way to describe it is they basically take your Mii and give them like an animal mask, so that they're like an animal in the game. So Reiner appeared in my game, and you were a duck,
Hey,
and I would hire Reiner the
congratulations.
duck and basically place him on a turret around the map, this large sort of Dynasty Warrior style map, and then the aliens would come, and it's up to you to kind of like, navigate this large map and try to like stop these aliens from coming in. And Dillon has these cool attacks where he's like really fast and he can claw at enemies. And then you kind of play that for a while, and then at a certain point, every alien rock gets converted into a vehicle. And then it turns into a race around the whole map to try and like take out the last couple of straggling alien rocks.
Is it a fun game?
It's okay. There's some frustrating things, like it's very wordy and everything takes forever to get to the action. So there's some stuff that kind of annoyed me and made it frustrating, but it's cool. It's different, and there's a really great mini game where you manage a store that I really liked.
Ooh, that's very good.
You had to like organize things on a shelf, and then while you're doing that, customers would walk around, and then when they're ready to ring up, you had to walk over to the counter, and you actually have to enter the prices in and ring them up.
Yeah.
And you could go back and restock and arrange the shelves. It's a
So
lot
it
of fun.
sounds like a real 775.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not
Okay.
like a game I would recommend for everybody, but it's different, and I mean that's what you laugh, but that's kind of 775. It's like some people will really like this game,
Uh-huh.
but most people I think will get frustrated, like I did, by how
You're
kind
just
of slow it moves.
generalizing the entire population.
Yeah,
That's
Is that
what
okay?
you just
That's one way
did.
to go. I guess
I'm sorry. Can you
Hold on.
change all that?
I got to put on, turn into Sherlock Holmes here for a second.
Sherlock
The only definable part of a me is its face.
yeah,
If I'm wearing a mask, how do you know it's me?
it's like a lower face mask.
So you just saw a goatee.
It was you with a duck bill basically,
Oh.
and your name was Reiner.
Okay, so it tells you the name.
Yeah,
Okay.
that seems crucial.
yeah,
Hey, Kyle, I've been meaning to ask you,
yeah.
what has this week at Game Informer been like?
What is this week for bed like?
Yeah.
It's
Describe the office to listeners.
Oh, we're very excited over our new website.
right.
Is that what you want me to talk about?
Yeah, you idiot. Yeah.
Well, you idiot. You didn't set it up at the beginning of the show. We have a new website and we all love it dearly. It
Yeah.
changes everything. We're so happy with it. It sounds like I'm being sarcastic. I'm really not.
You're doing a bad job.
I really adore the new website, and I hope you guys do too.
It is weird to kill an old website and revive a
Oh,
new
it felt
one.
so good.
Yeah.
But it's also scary. I'm nostalgic. I already missed the old website, but the new one's very cool.
Margaret
But
can
just-
show it to you if you want to go over to her desk.
Oh,
She'll show
really?
it to you,
Oh,
and
that's
you can be like, yeah, I'm glad we left that
But
behind.
it's such a weird idea. I don't know, like, step one for... Technically, it's not a redesign. It is a fully new website.
Yeah.
Importing an entire separate website's content over to this.
50,000 stories? Was that?
Over that, yeah.
It's insane. I don't know how the hell it works. And it's the idea of turning off this one, turning on the other. All right, there it is, everybody.
Make sure the pictures come over.
Yeah, I
I
just
guess
wrote
they
on a
did.
document science and then equals website works.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
But it's a weird week at Game Informer for that. That's very exciting. Thank you for
Yeah.
all the kind words. Seems like people are enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we obviously are happy. We're happy to take your, if you don't like it, let us know why. And I mean, the nice thing about this website is it's like very malleable and we can change and fix things very quickly where
Right,
we couldn't
very
in the past.
quickly.
Let's rebuild the old website on this new one. How hard can it be?
I've been reading a lot of the comments, and people want lights off back. Andy's talked
Yep.
about that. That's on his list of things. We got a big list of things to do though, and then obviously blogs. They want to be able to create their own content. That's something we're looking at too.
Mm-hmm.
This is the foundation though of the new site, and the big thing I think people like about it is speed. It's super fast. Videos are easier to watch. It's easier to read on mobile. We can timestamp videos. Like I just posted that crazy Sonic Boom story with an exact timestamp on YouTube. It's stuff we couldn't do before. This is like,
very
I'm talking
simple
like
and small.
2010, but
Right.
for us, this is a big deal.
And,
So
and mobile. We can now it works
readability on mobile is
and you
huge.
should absolutely check out Brian Shea's it's not Project Octopath anymore, it's just Octopath Traveler now. They've dropped the project to see like
It's real.
it's a good like look at the future of the site because it's like this is how interesting we can make our stories look, and it looks great. It's very cool.
Yeah,
it's distinct from the rest of the stories on the site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That story in particular is like us being able to do like magazine quality layouts online. That's, kind of bridging the two gaps and bringing editorial back. I think that's something that we kind of lost on the old website. It was hard to read. You had to like squeeze in on mobile. Pinch your
Sidebars
fingers.
made me want to puke.
Yeah. Pages. You had to have multiple pages. It took forever to load. But now we can really focus on editorial again and do some really cool stuff.
And if you're a video person, we have a dedicated videos tab now, right?
You know what? I haven't made a big enough a deal about that. You're totally right.
That's
That
cool.
is something I was screaming about for 7 years.
And then you finally got it, and you've quietly been like, all right, thanks.
Yeah, I guess this is fine. I don't know. It's very cool. And the plan is to update that as well and change things around a little bit, make it a little more detailed and stuff. So that'll be fun. But it's just a weird week having that and then also a lot of E3 prep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
There's a lot of people shouting out about which appointments are at what time and whether that works at a schedule. I have not opened that calendar once. I don't know.
That's
when
not
anything's
intimidating.
happening. I just keep saying yes whenever everybody asks if I can do something. So I'm sure it'll.
You're
all
keeping
come back
track
to
of
bite
what
me.
appointments you've agreed to, right?
I have a vague sense.
You could find out tomorrow. You open up that calendar. Every single one of your appointments is at 3:00 on Tuesday.
No, Mrs. Doubtfire time. It's a weird week, Reiner. It's an exciting and weird week for Game Informer, right? One of the weirdest in its history.
It's an awesome week because I mean, there's just so much excitement already for E3. And I think Andy tweeted like, "This is the dumbest idea I've ever had: is launching the website a week before E3." But that just amplified it for us because not only are we like, do we have a functioning, awesome new website that we love, but we're covering games, like new announcements that are as equally as exciting. And it's just kind of the perfect cocktail for us. And knock on wood, everything goes as planned with the site, but it seems like we can update that thing quick, so we'll be able to get you E3 news lickety split.
Speaking of E3 news, I saw in that post that Andy posted on the new GameInformer.com, he said we're revealing a cover story on Saturday.
Yeah.
What?
That seems weird.
Yeah.
That's not
Saturday,
when we usually
everybody.
do
Yeah,
these
other
things.
surprises, and make sure you check out the site.
Yeah, and we're thinking about recording a special bonus podcast where it's myself and another editor that went on this cover story trip, just divulging everything we know the second that we can on Saturday. So maybe look for that in your feed. Should be exciting.
Oh, yeah. Since this is before E3, I'm just going to plug something else.
Please.
We're going to be doing live streams of all the press conferences. Leo
Right.
Vader and what we call our home team, a group of editors that aren't going to the show, will be doing commentary over those live streams. And you want to check in 15 minutes early on Game Informer's Twitch and YouTube show for the pre-show, or pages for the pre-show. And then they're not going to talk over the whole show. They'll just give their commentary and reactions when things happen.
Yeah,
But it's cool. It's fun to watch that way.
for sure. And in theory, most likely, Game Informer shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with developers, with editors. Hopefully, it all comes together. But we'll see how it goes
At night, streamed. Hopefully.
Yeah. If you want to watch it live, jump in the chat, harass us. Go
And those will
for
be in
it.
the podcast feed as well, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Audio comes first. All
Those
the
are
time.
fun. I'll should be on some of those, I hope.
Absolutely. Reiner, are you gonna be?
Maybe. I got a crazy schedule this year.
Okay, you get a load of this.
I don't like it.
You gotta go drink beers with cool people.
with crazy people.
Crazy people. Kyle, most importantly, Sushi Striker
Sushi Striker.
on Switch. What is this game?
It is it's a puzzle game. It's definitely a puzzle game, and it's kind of match 3-ish, kind of like dropping blocks puzzle game, but the blocks come in from the left and right.
And is this a Nintendo proper game?
Yeah, I think it is because it's 3DS and Switch. Even though they'll be a lot different. I've only played Switch right now. So yeah, I think it is like a Nintendo published.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's a funny game. It's basically a puzzle RPG. Which is cool, and it has like full anime cutscenes that like I would put as far as like production value on par with something like
Studio Ghibli.
He said Studio
Oh
Ghibli.
gosh, I was gonna say like modern Pokemon, but Studio Ghibli is good too. But I mean,
Okay.
they're and the story is really silly, and it kind of embraces that. The idea is like sushi has been outlawed, and then these warriors discover sushi, and they just want to like the good guys want everyone to have as much sushi as they want, and the bad guys want to eliminate sushi because it starts wars.
Yeah.
Like you play
honestly, game developers, you don't need more than that.
Yeah,
that sounds fascinating.
You play as like an orphan whose parents were killed in the sushi wars of
Great.
the past, and like
Yeah.
it's and the way the game works is like you're like trying to connect all these matching colored sushis. So you match like there's a row of 14 red sushi red plates with sushi on them, and then you swipe to grab all those and eat all the sushi, and you have a stack of plates, and then you throw the plates at your opponent. And so you're actually like you're fighting.
That's
It's
fun.
very strange. I'm enjoying it so far.
Should I get this? I like match 3 things. I like my Switch.
Puzzle RPG kind of
Yeah.
it's not quite match 3. Like, don't go in expecting Bejeweled. It's just like the easiest genre to sort of point toward. But
It's
it really
matching
is.
stuff.
It's different. It's a puzzle game, but I can't think of much that I would compare it to directly.
Sounds
But if
great.
you like matching colored blocks and getting experience points for that,
I
If
do.
you don't mind looking at that much dead fish.
Yeah, it is pretty grotesque.
Yeah,
and
there's some
pretty
fruit in there
insensitive. Okay, you guys. Kyle, you specifically, do you want to get out of here so we can talk to Jeff Cork?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye,
Battle
man.
Royale. I'm the last man standing.
Jeff Cork, welcome to the show, man.
Hello.
What a
I'm
subtle
glad
entrance.
to be here.
Yeah, it's like
really-
a mouse.
It's an honor
I
to have
actually
you.
brought a special present for you real quick.
Really?
I just need you to close your eyes. I'm not going to touch you because you're so far
Last
away.
time you surprised me with something, you like squished some gross sauce packet into my ear.
I'm not going to squish a gross sauce packet in your eye.
All right, eyes closed.
Eyes closed for real?
Yeah.
Don't look.
Stop it.
It's not in your ear. It's into the
That's
microphone.
gross. Give me that Diablo hot sauce packet.
Hey,
What the hell?
having fun.
You can't do that to the listeners.
That's good. He likes it when you come up from behind him when he's at his desk and you just go.
It's
Right in his ear.
gross because it sounds like he's squirting crap into your ear.
But I'm not. That's what
doesn't
makes
matter.
it fun.
I hope you enjoyed that, listeners. Far Cry 5's DLC, Hours into Darkness.
It's true.
Okay, this is the first of 3 planned DLC things. So
Yes.
they got Martian spiders, Martian alien waves, crazy stuff, zombies, honk shoo, and
Vietnam, another flight of fancy for the gamers out there.
Yeah. Okay. How much have you played of this thing so far?
I think I'm about 2.5 hours. in there.
Okay. I
Yeah.
beat it last night, but I feel like
So
I
it's short.
skipped. It is short. I think you can expect like if you want to be exhaustive, like 3 to 5 hours. Like the landmass, it's not huge. It's like smaller than maybe one of the regions from Far Cry 5.
It seems to be fairly compact, but also you're wandering around a valley.
Yeah.
So you do have to do kind of like some snaking and backtracking because the canyon walls. I'm just using these geographic terms.
Right. It's
interchangeably,
super
but-
steep.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
you can't get up it.
Right. And that's the interesting thing is
Yeah.
you think like, all right, Vietnam in games, I'm sure I played something. And it wasn't until playing this game last night where I realized like, I don't think I've really played. There's like Battlefield, there's certain examples of games out there, but I haven't really spent that much time in a video game version of Vietnam. And it feels really unique. Like the geography,
Mhm.
I think like the skyboxes and just the environment, I think look really cool in this game where it's all hazy. And then you can see it's just like explosions happening in the distance, just like these red glows. You'd be walking through these steep valleys. There's a panther on your left, and then like U.S. Plane just like comes flying through, just like strafing the entire jungle and lighting it up. It's kind of cool.
Ubisoft, maybe they get enough credit for this, but I don't think they do. Like settings, like from Assassin's Creed to the Far Cry series, I think they always do a good job of changing it up and making just the location interesting.
Yeah, what did you think of the location, Cork?
Yeah, it's interesting. I agreed. I don't have a whole lot to contribute there other than the word interesting.
It just, yeah, I mean, even as small little details like they have, I don't know if they're speakers or radios, but they're like blasting propaganda.
Oh, the propaganda, yeah.
That's one of those things where it's like this Vietnamese lady just saying like, you are going to die here. Give up hope. Don't come around these parts. Go back home.
Let's back up a little bit.
Please.
So this basically, it starts off in Vietnam during the war, and you are playing as the character who, if you played the main campaign, you collected a bunch of lighters for him.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that far in the campaign, but you are collecting lighters in this as well.
You're
then.
collecting the lighters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing as him, and you're like a little animated sequence at the beginning. Your helicopter crashes, so then you're trying to get to an extraction point.
That's it.
And it is a nice change of pace from the campaign.
Yeah.
So I think it gives me what I think that the main outpost loop I think wasn't as satisfying as it had been in previous Far Cry's. This gets back to the like reinforcing and rewarding a style of gameplay that you didn't necessarily need to do, which I think is where Far Cry is at its best.
Right.
Where you're sneaking and you feel like the apex predators that Ubisoft likes to.
You go back to your
say a lot.
survival instincts, as they like to say for Far Cry. Because Reiner, what this does is it has like this weird tiered system of skills. So the more stealthy you are, like if you get seen or captured, it'll reset. But if you're stealthy and continue doing takedowns, it'll like pile up like this multiplier of new skills where like it'll
That's
auto target enemies, stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes
They
it
should
so
put
like-
that in the main game.
Yeah, very early on, like you can like you don't have a skill tree necessarily. It's just a thing that's constantly like popping up and going down depending on how reckless you are to increase how quickly you run or move while crouched. It'll, like you said, target and ultimately will let you target enemies automatically through walls. So you do feel like a big superhero. And also it doesn't just for takedowns. You can snipe people and that will increase it. So I found a really nice sniper rifle this morning and was able to just like terrorize people in a fun way.
Yeah,
And-
in a fun Vietnam kind
get
of
that
way.
meter going up here.
Do you think this was originally going to be like a full game that they ended up saying, no, let's not do that? But they
I don't
were
know.
like, well, we could just do it as the DLC.
I'm sure somewhere on a whiteboard where they're pitching possible locations, the idea of a Vietnam Far Cry came up. But what I love about this, and hopefully it'll carry through the other ones as well, is it lets the Far Cry series kind of experiment in these smaller bite-sized things where, the setting's so important, like you said. And now just to have a smaller self-contained version of that, you need Far Cry 5 to play it, by the way, which is kind of a bummer. But just to get to experience that, like, all right, I get the setting. I know what Far Cry 5 would kind of, or Far Cry would kind of be like in that setting. Moving on. Now we get Mars Far Cry. Now we get Zombie Far Cry. I love the small experiments.
I was actually a little I was excited about this to see what the DLC was going to do. I like the idea, like you're saying, of these like smaller little experiences, but I was concerned because one of the things that they're really pushing with Far Cry 5 is the arcade, where people can use assets from a variety of different Ubisoft properties to kind of build their own levels and that kind of thing. I was thinking before I started playing, I was like, I hope this does not feel like something that someone just built using their tools.
Disney Infinity levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it does not feel like that. It does feel like something a little more handcrafted. I think there aren't anything like, at least, I guess where I stopped, there was something you would say, it's kind of, you could confuse it with a set piece moment in a larger game. You know what I mean? Like a big explosive, bridge gets taken out or something. There's nothing like super crazy where like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they were able to do this in DLC. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like something that a group of amateurs cobbled together over the weekend using those assets.
And Ubisoft Shanghai made it. The director, I looked up his history. He goes back. He's like a designer on like the Tarzan game that Ubisoft made, Myst 4. Like he's an old timer from Ubisoft, and it's cool that he gets his shot making this weirdo little experience.
Yeah,
I'm totally with you.
And also like the Outpost, I think that it goes back to like I said earlier. It kind of what I think Far Cry is at its best is kind of I think Far Cry 3 style outpost where you're kind of there's more animals in cages than I found in Far Cry 5, which I'm a sucker for.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to kind of divert attention from you, and it seems like the way that the enemies are kind of laid out, it's a little more interesting to interact with those as puzzles than it was with Far Cry 5. I felt like I was just so powerful most of the time. I had so many tools and everything in Far Cry 5. It wasn't the base game. It wasn't particularly fun or interesting.
Yeah. And you mentioned the lack of set piece moments. I'm a little bit torn. I like the simplicity of it. Of just, here's the extraction point.
Yep.
There's POWs and like anti-aircraft guns that you can take it along the way if you want to, but meh. And so I started doing that for a little bit. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I just kind of want to see how this ends and see like what this package is. So then I just beelined it. I just like hugged a mountain, stayed up by the edge, and basically did what I would really do if I was in Vietnam and I knew there was a helicopter waiting for me over there. It's like, all right, forget everybody else.
You don't care
I gotta
about
go.
that guy's lighter?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Everyone's having a good time. Those POWs are enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
Then they got in the helicopter, and then there's a big set piece thing towards the end.
Okay.
I have to hold the line for a while. But then the helicopter pilot's like, well, at least we got you out of here alive. See you, everybody. Just fly away.
Interesting, because like while you're kind of exploring, they've got POW camps. You can kind of liberate prisoners. There's 2 different flavors. There's the South Vietnamese soldiers that you save, and then they will say, thank you, and then they'll give you a piece of intel, like something pops up on the map.
Thank you for releasing me.
This is great, and then they just kind of wander off because you didn't kill any of the other soldiers, but who knows what happens. But then there's also the 3 named characters who are kind of your crew, like hey, Joker and Moses. And
Right.
Oh, Joker, huh?
Yeah, you won't believe it, what he has tucked into the brim of his helmet.
Ooh.
No, don't
One
say a
guess.
don't say a playing card.
Well, so much for that. Yeah, but you rescue those guys, and then they kind of work like the mercenaries for hire. So with a twist that they can die.
Oh,
And
okay.
they stay dead. So I had one of them with me for a while, and I'm super excited. I'm telling him like, hey, go kill that sniper. Hey, you get that sniper.
Don't
Then
worry, there's
eventually
no
he's like-
consequences.
Then he said, oh, he died. And I was like, well, and just threw a bunch of explosives at my feet and detonated it because I'm like, I like you. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can make it through with all my friends alive. So
What if the alternate endings, like Hanson said, like, well, at least we saved you? What if it's like, at least we saved 2 of you,
yeah,
3 of you,
Maybe it's
all
actually,
of you?
It does have a little image where it's like a war photo, and like I did save one. I saved Joker, and so like it showed him, and I think like the one South Vietnamese guy that I saved as well. So to like start to like fade them in. So I'd imagine just like fill out the photo if you go.
Does they have like
rescue
a
more.
montage at the end that tells what they went on to do in life?
Yeah.
Survive.
Yep. No, they don't, but they
No,
really should have.
That's a missed
some of those
opportunity.
POWs look like the POWs you rescue from Metal Slug. I don't know if you noticed that.
That's exactly.
They have, like the
it's
tattered
confusing.
clothes and like the weird beard. Give me a break.
Metal Slug, my favorite Vietnam game.
Yeah.
But also playing through it, I like the simplicity of it, but I feel like if you're expecting, a lot of personality, or for like the Far Cry rebellious brand to really be thinking outside the box here in terms of a Vietnam little story, like there basically isn't a story.
It doesn't even have Fortunate Son. Anywhere.
Exactly. What the hell? Is it too much to ask? Get a little CCR in there.
How do I know where I am? I need that rock music.
Yeah, but it's not that punk rock of a Far Cry entry. It's a
Sounds
little
like
bit
those are
vanilla.
coming though, right?
Yeah, I think Mars should be interesting. I don't know how much they're going to lean into a
And
story
zombies,
there,
yeah.
but yeah, for sure.
Kick a probe rover around for a while. There's nothing to do on Mars.
Yeah, nothing to do on Mars. Nothing ever happens on Mars, as they say in Waiting for Guffman. Jeff Cork, is that all you want to say about Far Cry 5 Hours into Darkness?
Yeah.
Okay. They should release it standalone.
You think
It's,
so?
it's silly that they don't. I know it's not
Well, they
huge,
should
but
release
just a little,
all of them together as
Yeah,
one
that
standalone
would be
thing.
cool.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
Boy, I have a feeling if they released that standalone at anything other than a price point of 99 cents, people would be so mad.
Dude, they could release that for $10?
I think
$5?
Here, I do not agree with this, but I think people like to look at their clock when they're evaluating how much something is worth, and if something is you can comfortably beat in 3 hours,
Ground zeros.
yeah, that's it. In a lot of people's minds, and again, I'm not agreeing with this, completely worthless as a product.
Yeah, you're right. That is sad. I love you.
I love you more.
Do you want to come back for emails?
I want nothing more than to come back for emails.
Okay. Do you want to clap out now, though?
I guess I will.
Dan Tech, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's up? It's good to be here.
Oh, God, you're coming in like a Spitfire today.
Coming in hot. Coming in
Spitfire,
hot.
right out of Vietnam. Here we go.
Whoa.
Talking about Dauntless.
Okay, Dauntless.
Yeah,
It's a game.
This game is that Western Monster Hunter game. We had the developers on. They were lovely months and months ago.
We did.
What state is this thing in now?
This has been a long process, and it's changed a lot during the course of closed beta to what we are currently in is open beta.
is it free?
It is free.
Oh, really?
All open betas are not created equal these days. This is more of kind of a soft launch thing, in my estimation,
Really?
than a typical, oh, we're going to change so much from release till now. This is
So
sort of
dive in now, you're saying.
there are no planned wipes or anything. So you can
Okay.
get in and start working on your character, getting cool gear, fighting awesome bosses. I've put a ton of time into this. I'm on the end game right now. And if you're a Monster Hunter fan, some of the end game monster designs are particularly going to be interesting to you. The stuff before that, it
Like
kind
Elder
of
Dragon type stuff?
yeah, it's kind of a slow burn, honestly, it's sort of you don't start in the deep end of the pool by any stretch.
Baby
The
game.
early monsters are very non-interesting, and the early customization options are not interesting. But as you get further and further into the game and you progress, good customization options unlock, and the fights do get satisfyingly challenging and interesting.
How much time are you saying before it gets interesting?
Depending on your skill level. So if you have to farm up a lot of low-level stuff to get to the next tier,
Talk
I know.
about yourself. How long until it got interesting?
Or just about your life
I
in
don't know.
general.
I can do that for hours, Hanson.
But
But
you can.
I don't know, 10 hours
Okay, and then
for a Monster Hunter vet who's just going to be bored chopping through, damaged sponges until they get to where you've got to dodge and practice boss mechanics. So the two end bosses that are in the game currently are really fun. One of them's like a laser disco bug. That shoots laser beams everywhere. Like we're
Okay.
talking like epileptic seizure kind of deal.
That
right?
sounds great.
It is great though. It's visually awesome and impressive fight, but also learning how to dodge each particular beam set that he has.
Yeah.
And beat that with the crew is very satisfying. That's how you get some of the best gear in the game. Unlike Monster Hunter, not only do monsters have their own particular sets, which are awesome, and you can gem them just like you can sort of do in Monster Hunter and get different effects. You can also find, to put it in terms of what people would know, Destiny exotics.
Oh, okay.
So those are a thing that can drop off endgame content that is very difficult to acquire and create, but gives you unique powers and effects in battle,
Yeah.
like being able to like come back from the dead and keep hitting the monster.
I feel like I need an assessment from you. What do you think of this game?
Currently, I'm loving it a lot.
Really?
Like, I'd be playing this for fun. Absolutely. I am having tons of fun with it, and it's got a ton of potential. Like not only it's good now, but it's
Okay.
good. But I have this to me is like old school Warframe, like before it got like huge.
Yeah.
This is like sort of the platform or the springboard where this game is really going to take off.
Is it finding a community?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to say this early, but
Yeah.
but I think so. I certainly haven't had any trouble finding groups or players to play with, because it's sort of like an instant queue thing.
Right.
So, question for you. So you
Yeah.
said there's two bosses at the end are fun, but you're getting legendary gear that way, exotics.
I don't have any yet. They're very.
But if you
very
get that,
rare.
what do you use that on then? What's the end game?
So here's the
basically?
thing. That's another cool thing about this is that the endgame content rotates. So the endgame concept is sort of this maelstrom of swirling islands. So every 7 days or 6 days, islands rotate out, new islands rotate in, new monsters are available,
Huh.
new gears are available, that kind of thing. The two big bads, though, they don't move as far as I know. They are both available at all times, and
World moves around them, buddy.
they are significantly challenging. Like I do, certainly, even with a good group, victory is far from guaranteed, and because these fights have additional level of challenge for the veteran player, because it's not just about beating the monster. That's all well and good, but you absolutely need to get the difficult crafting materials off them. So Rezakiri is a difficult fight, but getting the leg off of that thing and surviving is so like twice as hard. It's easy to
That's
kill him
fun.
if you just bash on his tail, but pulling that leg off, he barely ever goes to the ground, right? So getting a coordinated group to smash that leg off can be quite challenging.
That's
that
good
leg
game,
part
man.
is really really vicious.
Don't gotta
to
tell
get.
me.
It sounds really cool. I'm sold on this rotating island idea. Is it only on PC?
It is only on PC, and I don't believe they've ever mentioned any plans to take it
What?
elsewhere.
Unfortunately, it's time to grow the hell up right now.
Now, hey, if it takes off, I assume that the window will that
Hey, E3 is right around the corner.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
Xbox One press conference.
They're desperate
Dauntless.
for games.
I think it would do great on console. To be honest with you, it plays really well on a controller.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here's what I want to know. Like, I have some buddies now that are like, "Hey, I feel like we missed this Monster Hunter World window.
Mhm.
Can we get back into it now?" Is this
You
like
sure
a good
can.
alternate, even for people that maybe have kind of like gotten a little bit bored of Monster Hunter World by now? Is just less like, is it game on? Free to play stuff isn't aggressive. It's not going to annoy us.
No, the free to play is extremely fair.
Okay.
There's you can buy potions and stuff.
How
if
much
want
have
the
you spent
edge.
on it?
Nothing yet.
Wow.
He hesitated.
But
You
there
really
there are customization stuff that I want. but I'm sort of
Okay.
waiting for more stuff to go into the rotation. But it's sort of like Fortnite. You buy skins or something like that. There's nothing like where it's like, oh, I want to pay to get more materials. No,
Is there like a battle pass like in Fortnite where
that would be very smart. There
Yeah.
is not anything of that equivalent.
yet the developers are watching and now they're taking it.
I would definitely apply that to this game. That would be a good idea.
So this game is just Monster Hunter free to play, Cream Dream Thrill of a Lifetime. Is that where we're at here? I'm only hearing
some
great
of the
things.
with some of the caveats that we've just discussed. Yeah.
Okay.
So some of the negatives, I guess, maybe not. Monster Hunter veterans may not find exactly as many encounters or variety getting up to the top tier. The top tier encounters though are so engaging that they're better than some of the end game Monster Hunter encounters for sure.
Okay.
They're awesome. Like just conceptually, these monsters are like the Shroud fight is the other big fight. We talked a lot about Rezakiri the bug. Shroud is he lives up to his name. He puts down a shroud during the fight, so you can't see anything except like what's right in front of your face.
Oh god.
And you have to like kind of look for his glowing eyes to come out of the shroud to know what he's.
Cool.
He also creates doubles and all kinds of other. He's really nasty. I have yet to beat him, and I've tried to kill him. I don't know, 20 times.
Jeez.
Getting groups to kill him
Get
is
good,
difficult.
man.
This game, there's a gear aspect of it too, just like Monster Hunter. It's not getting good is very good. You do need to be good, but you also need gear too. And I'm trying to break off pieces of Rezakiri to get.
Sounds like you better throw down some real money.
That's true.
But it won't give me any edge.
There we go. Dauntless, everybody. Check it out, says Dante.
I think it's absolutely worth checking.
There we
Even
go.
if you don't like it, it's free. Download it, give it a
Sounds
shot.
cool.
And then send hate mail to Dante.
Please do.
Okay, that sounds great. Dan, did you watch the Destiny 2 Forsaken trailer or anything about that?
I have not seen it. No.
Okay, there's a story in GameInformer.com about it, but Destiny 2 announced their new expansion called Forsaken.
Sounds like everybody's back in.
So this is
It seems like people are interested.
this is the big expansion. This is the Taken King equivalent.
This is the equivalent of the Taken
Yeah.
King. Yeah. So if you're a Destiny fan, definitely check that out on our site, and hopefully we'll talk more about it in the future. But Dan Tack, do you want to come back for emails later?
Why not?
Okay, we'll see you later. Clap out. Thanks.
When do I leave? One more segment?
Hey, Reiner, you got to clap out too. All right, do it now. Do it now. Okay, we got a big swapperoo. We have Brian Shea.
Hey,
We have
big
Joe
swapperoo.
Juba.
That's me.
Best buds in the office. These two scallywags always going to lunch together,
Inseparable.
smooching in the back alley, everything you'd want.
Never throwing pies at each other's faces.
That's right. We're here to talk about Project Octopath and Vampyr.
Yeah, I think it's Vampire.
You think?
Could be Vampyr.
We need to know this, Joe, because I corrected Kyle earlier in the show and said that it was Vampire.
I mean, they call them vampires in the game.
But they spell them vampires in the game.
Yeah. So
Oh.
like,
Oh,
I
God.
don't
All
know.
right,
what to- I
everything-
mean,
everything's going to hell.
there's no point in the game where someone says thank you for playing Vampyr.
Is it too much to ask for the Resident Evil treatment when you press start on a new game? They should say the name of the goddamn game. Anyways, Brian Shea, Project Octopath.
Yes.
Tell me the story of what you know compared to what everybody else knows and how you know it.
So I went out to scenic Redmond, Washington, as we discussed last week.
He listens to the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about Mario Tennis and Splatoon last week, and this week we are doing the Octopath thing that I can finally talk about. But basically, I played 2 exclusive chapters of this game.
Does chapters mean characters?
Yeah, different characters. So each character, so there's 8. Just as an overview, there's 8 characters you can choose from, and that dictates your starting point in the game.
So it's like a Dragon Age Origins type of thing.
Sure.
Okay.
So you can choose, and that
Sure, he says, having no idea what.
yeah, I'm not a
Joe,
Dragon Age
from what
fan.
you know about the game, does that seem right? Is that a good analogy or not?
I think from what I understand of it, the idea is that you choose from among these 8 characters, and that's sort of where you jump into the story. But then as you progress, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to play the game 8 times to see what every character's story is.
exactly.
As you progress through the game, you encounter the other characters, and sort of their story arcs get woven in that way.
Okay, so it's like Threads of Fate on PlayStation 1.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so which characters were you playing as?
I played as Hannet, which is a hunter, and I played as Alphen, an apothecary.
Those sound dynamic.
Yes. So there are 8 different classes for the 8 characters, and in the demo that people played, I think it was last fall it hit on Switch, you played as the warrior and the dancer.
Yeah.
And all the classes play really differently. So
Okay.
like Hannet, she can capture beasts with her sword, and then you can summon them in battle. So like I was capturing like eagles and wolves and having them fight for me. It was pretty cool because they all bring like their separate elements, and
Sold.
every character or every enemy has like different vulnerabilities. So like if you don't have a character who has like a sword attack, you could possibly capture something that has like that sword element to it. 'Cause it's not just like wildlife that you're capturing; it's other enemies as well.
And humans.
Yeah,
Oh, fun.
No, really?
I don't know. Actually, I didn't have.
Sure.
I was gonna say sure to everything. I'm not sure.
I was
about.
trying to make a joke out of
Slavery. Anyways,
I'm sorry.
Other
Yeah, I shouldn't
characters
have done
can bring other like NPCs along with them. Like Primrose can use Allure. She was the dancer, and she can actually bring other characters into battle. And then there's other, like, you can hire mercenaries as another character.
Okay, this game is interesting. If you have not seen this, it's Nintendo Switch exclusive from Square. We've talked about it before on the show, but you should look up gameplay footage for this thing because it has a 16-bit tilt shift, shallow depth of field, bizarre, funky
It's
look.
dreamlike
like
is the way I described it.
kind of like cardboard cutout-y, except good cardboard. I
Yeah,
don't
Joe
know.
is like a huge 16-bit JRPG fan. Is this scratching a big old itch?
Ugh. Yeah,
Is that one you always have on your back you can never quite reach and get your buddy Brian Shea to scratch it for you?
Even when he can reach it.
I think that's part of what makes the visual styles for me like so interesting about it is that it definitely has that retro look, but at the same time the sort of, I don't know, it's almost like a diorama or something.
Yeah.
Like that approach to it.
HD landscapes with like pixel art characters.
Yeah,
It's cool.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, this is from the same development house that did the Bravely series, right?
Yep.
Oh,
So-
interesting. Okay.
And I know that that those series definitely have a hardcore following. They were like the previous games. One of the things I'm this like framework, the story framework has me excited about is maybe like decreasing a little bit on the grindy elements. That was the thing about Bravely Default that never quite.
But couldn't you also like skip grind? There was some weird flexibility when it came to random battles in that game, I thought. I can't remember exactly what the details were. But
yeah.
so less
yeah.
grindy overall? It's more story focused?
It's not necessarily grindy. It was like in Bravely Default, you were like doing the same, like basically going through the same story loop multiple times. Right. So it seems like with the way that this story is set up, that's what has me the most excited about it, I think, is just the idea of like, like slowly amassing these characters and learning about them and seeing sort of where the different threads go without it like looping back on itself.
And so far, they all seem like they're really personal, like tales that you're just kind of helping them out with. Like one person's like seeking revenge for her father's murder, and the other person is trying to become a better apothecary. And like,
Been there.
Your potions suck, Hanson.
Probably.
So like,
like
it's
Kool-Aid?
kind of cool that they're all like these personal tales that like people are just kind of along for the ride with. Like, it's not exactly like, oh, well, there's this evil tyrant that we have to rise up and fight against yet anyway. Like I asked them and they wouldn't confirm or deny it. So
We don't talk about tyrants. But overall, you enjoyed what you played. Did you feel like you learned anything specifically from your play session that changed or informed you more about the overall game than the outside world knows?
I think that I just enjoyed seeing like how the party system works, because in the demo it was primarily like solo focused. I didn't play all the way to the part where people said that I guess if you went to a specific spot, you could actually recruit a second party member in the demo.
Okay.
But this was like full on 4 person party, which is the max that you can have. And yeah, it was kind of cool to see how the characters play off each other. Like I would have one character, because I don't know if you know about the break system, but like it's like once you hit their vulnerability, like a little like countdown starts, and once you hit that vulnerability enough times, the character breaks, and you have a couple of like free hits at them that do extra damage. And then you can also boost your, like every time you use a character, like that turn ends up charging their boost meter, and then you can choose to boost them like once, like with the little slots that you earn with their turn. So I would like buff my warrior, and then I would break the character or break the enemy, and then boost him all the way, and then use his powerful sword attack, and it would just obliterate enemies. Like the way that you can play off of each other using those different systems in the turn-based combat is awesome.
And you also have access to like sub jobs and stuff to give
you
people
can
even additional
I
like
didn't even get into that. Yeah,
abilities,
so everybody has their primary class, and you can give them a secondary class, and then you can unlock moves within those classes, so that like if you equip the warrior with a secondary class of hunter, then they have other abilities they can do. And And
that
then
sounds pretty good.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like I was kind of like, oh, this is fun for the demo, but like once I got my hands on like the full experience of like 4-person parties, swapping out party members, using their path actions, which like the thing where you can allure people or you can challenge them to a duel, and like there are noble,
right?
yeah. So like there's noble and rogue path actions that are different ways you can interact with NPCs. Like so you can, and like they each have like a different end of the spectrum. So there's purchase where you can use money and buy something from an NPC, or steal. But if you get caught stealing, it affects your reputation in that town. So if your reputation takes too big of a hit, the townspeople won't react to you or like do stuff with like they won't react positively to you.
You get the silent treatment.
Everyone just quietly turns around when you walk by.
But you can go and like if your reputation gets too big of a hit, you can go and actually like talk to the bartender and pay him money, and he'll spread good rumors about you to restore your
awesome.
reputation.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Like spread good rumors basically means just buying everyone around, right?
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Hey, this guy's cool, y'all. He's got some good stories about potions or whatever. Check him out. That's cool. Did you also learn something about just, I saw some news story, passing glance. What is this?
Wait, do your research, Hanson.
It said something like Square Enix is going all in on Switch, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, so I talked to the team at Square Enix and Acquire, which is the Bravely team, and they had mentioned something kind of in passing that they had, and starting in April of this year, their team became like a full-on division devoted to developing games for Switch.
Like full BD within Square, as they call it?
I don't know how big of a team it is, but like they're like, hey, we are committed to making more games for Switch. And I asked them like, they're like, oh, well, you know, if Octopath does well, you can expect to see other games on Switch. And I asked like, all right, well, are you already making these games, or are you waiting to see how Octopath does? And they were like, well, we are already, like, there are already multiple games in development for Switch.
Oh, so how do you say 9? Septa? No, that's 5. What would the Octopath sequel be called, Joe?
Ninopath.
Yeah, like Nanopath, I think.
Is that what it is? Okay. Wait, so other divisions then, or just they're prepared to make Switch games for a while?
That division is apparently working on multiple Switch games.
That's very exciting.
And the way he said it, like, was if you enjoy games like Octopath Traveler, pick up a Switch. So that leads me to believe it's going to be more like kind of old school RPGs.
I think this game's going to do really well.
I kind of feel bad for Tokyo RPG Factory.
That's exactly what I was thinking. They were being held up as like the old school RPG designers. They've had 2 at-bats. They're batting about 500. It's so sad. That's like what are those games called, Joe? Help me.
I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lost Sphere, that came out this year, right?
I don't
I
remember.
think it did.
I've
never heard a single person talk about it.
Yeah, I Am Setsuna had like a little bit of buzz around it, but Lost Sphere I completely forgot existed.
It's so sad.
I reviewed, like I finished I Am Setsuna, and then when I saw that Lost Sphere, the general consensus was like, it didn't really raise the bar in all the ways that should have been raised. Then
Yeah.
I was like, then I think I'll pass on.
I started I Am Setsuna, and that writing was just so boring. And I love a good JRPG, but it just felt so banal. I just couldn't do it. But there is that audience that, like, I would love to play more JRPGs on my Switch, and I think this is really
I
gonna.
mean, it's the perfect platform for it. Like, I love playing JRPGs on my Vita, so
Yeah.
the Switch is just a step up from that. So that's awesome.
right. Vampyr.
Yeah. Vampyr.
Juba, probably Vampyr. Okay, this is from, strangely enough, the same team as your favorite game.
Well, it's not my favorite game, but I really enjoy Life is Strange. and
Life
that
is Strange.
Also from developer Don't Nod.
There we go. And they also made Remember Me, if you remember that little gem. But this game is wild. I feel like there is going to be that fan base for Life is Strange that are going to keep their eye on this. And I had a fun experience where I knew the name, I knew they were working on it. I didn't really know anything else. And then I started playing it as well. And it's like, oh, it's like a open world RPG? What is this game, Joe?
Yeah. It's an open world RPG.
Where you're a vampire sucking blood left and right.
So really, I mean, where this game, I am still playing it, by the way.
Yeah.
We should have our review up in the next week or so.
So these are early
We'll see how
impressions.
E3 goes. So yeah, it's still, probably impressions from the first half of the game.
Okay.
But I think what's so surprising about it for me is like how well the atmosphere of that sort of like gothic vampire thing comes across.
It's a very foggy London. You'd never imagine it, Brian.
It's like, okay, well, you're a vampire, so you can't go out in the daylight, so it's just dark. This isn't a game that has like a day-night cycles. It's just night.
It'd be funny if it did, though, and every time the sun comes, oh, God!
Burst into flames.
So they establish an interesting sort of dynamic to make you feel kind of predatory. And it's beyond, we're not just talking like...
But not evil, which is the fun vampire mix, you know?
Exactly. So it's not quite that Batman, like, vigilante style, like, oh, there's a room of people and I'm going to, like, hunt them Predator style. It's more of a, like, psychological kind of predation that's interesting.
Cuba style.
Because, so the core idea of the game, or, like, the progression anyway, is that like you're this doctor, and in order to get stronger as a vampire and, like, you know, beat the bosses that the game throws at you, you need to feed on NPCs. But these NPCs aren't just like randomly generated, just like roaming around the streets. Like, they have names, they have like
dialogue trees,
401ks.
Yeah. So 401ks, families at home, all that stuff. So you go and you talk to them. And the idea is, by talking to them and by talking to other people in their community, you learn things about all the different people. So then the more you learn about them, the better their blood gets for some reason.
Oh, I thought it's because there's a blood quality rating. I thought that was just baseline. Everybody had different blood, but it improves the more you talk to them.
Right. So the more you learn about people, the better their blood quality, which means that when you do eventually eat them, you get more experience for it. So it's this weird game of like restraint and optimization to be like, all right, I could eat you, but I'm going to learn a little more about you first and like get you to trust me, so you tell me things so that I get the most experience. When
Games are like, fun, you guys.
It's like this weird like romancing thing.
It's much
it's
more
sexy. There's no doubt about
it. It's much more mechanical than that. I mean, really, it boils down to like this character has 4 hints about them, and you talk to them and then you learn a hint, and then that unlocks a new dialogue thing, and then that teaches you something about someone else. So you go talk to them, and then they give you a hint about that first person, and you go. Yeah. So there's it's not as like in concept, it sounds super dynamic and interesting, and in execution ends up feeling a little mechanical and clunky. So which is basically what Vampyr is boiling down to for me.
Yeah.
Is a lot of really interesting concepts that when it comes down to just like the nuts and bolts of it, whether it's like the systems behind the curtain, just the actual gameplay, the navigation of the world, like these things all sort of like they hitch up in weird places that make it not really like fully live up to the potential.
Do you know what that's a recipe for, Joe?
What's that?
Cult classic forever.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I would say there's an element of like I'm a big fan of Deadly Premonition, for instance. Like, it could be something similar to that,
or even it reminds me a little bit of like Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, I think there is going to be a fan base for this game, and people will be talking about it. The J.V. Gwaltneys of the world will always love Vampyr and talk about, why don't they make more games like that one where you build the blood quality up and then suck them dry?
But there's like 4. One thing that they are like try to emphasize is the importance of choice. So many games do that. But I mean, like what they do with this one is try to convey the idea that you can choose to feed on people if you want to. You're going to need to at some point to like.
Is there a meter? I guess I haven't felt that need yet. In combat, I do a little quick bite to get some blood in me, but that's about all I've done so far.
No. There's like the enemies that you encounter, like what your level is determined by how much blood or like how much experience you have spent in your skill trees.
Okay.
The most efficient way to get experience to spend in that skill tree is by actually like feeding on people, not like biting in combat, but the deliberate choice of like, I am going to bite and kill this NPC.
I'm going to bite you harder than that other guy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, because you need to do that at some point, you need to like, it's almost like a morality thing, I guess, where like it's like they know that some players are going to want to try to be good and not eat people. They're probably going to have to at some point. But for me, this sets up a really weird sort of choice when you're talking about choice in games, like let's say you're dealing with like Mass Effect, right?
Sure.
Do you kill the Arachnite Queen? Do you not kill the Arachnite Queen? Whichever choice you take, you want to see some ripples for that.
Yeah.
But imagine if in Mass Effect the choice instead was, do you kill the Arachnite Queen or do you get 3 skill points? It's almost like an apples and oranges situation where it's like one of them is a very like story and content focused choice and the other one is almost like a meta mechanical choice, and it feels weird to like hold those on opposite sides of the same, to have those hinge on the same
It
moment.
Right.
sounds
That's
closer to the BioShock choice. Little Sisters.
Not
interesting.
not exactly, because in that one you still get there's still equivalents, right? Like in BioShock, if you harvest the sisters, you get Adam to spend on things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't harvest them, the little sisters give you new things that you wouldn't get if you had harvested them, right? So there's like, hey, here's gameplay reward if you do this, different kind of gameplay reward if you do this. But this is very different in the sense that like if you kill someone who's like the center of a community, you might be cutting yourself off from like side quests and storylines and other sorts of things that like happen just on a like narrative level of the game. But if you do feed them, then it's like, oh, you get these like experience to spend on abilities and stuff, which, like I said, it just feels like a weird thing to like be on the same teeter-totter.
I hear
you.
you.
Know?
Yeah, that is odd. I mean, it's a fascinating game to talk about. It's a really cool concept. I encourage players like look up gameplay footage first. Like it's going to be a little bit jankier maybe than you expect. Like the publisher is Focus Home Interactive. It's done some fine work, but you know this isn't a huge monster budget of a game, and even like the combat, like it almost feels a little more MMO-y than I was expecting.
Oh boy.
And there are times, I mean, depending on how hard the enemies are, and I hesitate to even put this out there, but there are times when the game is almost trying to be a little like Souls-like or Bloodborne-y in the way that, but like it doesn't necessarily have the like refined combat to pull that off either.
Interesting. Okay.
So again, it's like it's ambitious and interesting in a lot of ways, and
Yes.
I am eager to keep playing it.
I look
but it
forward to
is-
your review, Joe. And most importantly, the main character's hair looks exactly like Brian Shay's, and that's worth talking about.
Oh yeah, it does a little bit.
It's uncanny.
I keep hearing that.
Do you really?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nobody's talking about this. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Overall, I'm super happy a game like this can exist. It is such a weird thing that I think there's going to be a fan base for it.
I want to try it. Like, even
Oh,
though
yeah?
you have given your thoughts and not all of them are positive, I do want to give it a shot.
Good. There we go. Check it out, man. Shay, do you want to come back for emails?
Sure.
Joe, I've been to ask you, are you looking forward to the next cover story from Game Informer launching on Saturday?
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. Do you know anything
Who
about
knew?
that?
No, I mean I'm excited as anyone else to see what it is.
I'd argue more so. All right, but let's move on to emails, everybody.
Let's do it.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here. It's like a greatest hits from this episode we've got here. From Dauntless, we have Dan Tack returning to the table.
That's right.
From Vampyr, Brian Shay's haircut.
Octopath, but yeah.
There we go. Jeff Cork's here from Far Cry fame.
Blah. Like a
They're all
vampire.
What we're doing here is we're reading emails that people send into podcast@GameInformer.com. They sent in news stories, questions, feedback, comments, thoughts on the game industry, thoughts outside of the game industry. We like things about games, though. We are Game Informer after all, Dan Tech.
We are.
Come hell or high water. We're going to read off what people sent into podcast@GameInformer.com, and then we're going to choose our absolute favorite and then put them on the big board. We're going to figure out where they're from. Hopefully they include it in the email.
You know.
And then we're going to put them up on the big
Yeah.
board and honor their home city.
I've been
Right,
watching.
Dan?
This, I've been watching this show. You guys
Have
need
you?
to, you guys need to take a couple geography lessons.
What the hell are you talking
Boom.
about? No one's brought that up. Kaboom! Speaking of boom,
Yeah.
Sonic Boom, we should
Oh.
have a tip of the cap. This is a weird thing that happened, right? So this is Felix from Paris. Felix that put Paris on the board here on the Game Informer show. You might remember his question from a couple weeks ago. Apparently he works in post-production in the audio department on the Sonic Boom TV show. And he decided to include an obscure reference to Bramble Bran, which is from Ben Reeves' Insane Mouth from an old Super Replay of Super Metroid. Jeff Cork, are you tickled by this or are you just confused?
I am tickled by it, also slightly terrified. Who and where are the gatekeepers?
Oh, for Sonic Boom?
Yeah, literally, he could have put anything in there, like a Lemon Party reference or like Goatsy or something, and who knows?
Yeah, well, if you reference Goatsy enough on this podcast, maybe it'll be a tip of the cap to Game Informer to include a Goatsy
No,
reference.
no, we don't need
It's
that.
the new Sonic companion, Goatsy! Derek, the intern in the booth, do you want to find that little embedded audio clip from just Sonic Boom and then pop that up and see if we can hear it? It's a bizarre thing to hear. That's it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Bramble
Also,
brand
See,
cookies.
it was well hidden enough. It's just like,
also, I think I don't know exactly when, but I think it happened a long time ago and just no one noticed or cared until somebody finally tweeted it at us. Like, hey, it's weird.
it's cool.
But last week's email, I don't know if you guys recall, it was Chris from Chandler, Arizona. God's country, just one of the best places on earth. What do you like about Chandler, Arizona, Dan Tech?
The weather isn't always stifling.
That's
Yeah,
true.
how about that?
Unlike this room. They have a large Intel headquarters there. Out of a city of 200,000 people, 11,300 people work for Intel, which is very exciting.
So watch your mouth when you're in
Chandler, Arizona.
That's it.
Talk crap about the bunny suits.
That's it. And also, don't talk crap about ostriches, because Chandler, Arizona loves ostriches. They used to raise them there for women's hats and a bunch of nonsense in the 20th century.
Wow.
So every year they have an
Way back in the
ostrich
20th century.
ostrich festival.
Cool.
Every single year. And this year at the Ostrich Festival, I was ready to make fun of it. They had Kool and the Gang and the Beach Boys perform.
I would go to that.
I think I would too.
That's
An ostrich festival with those two performing?
Yeah.
I'm in.
And so I was like, I want to find someone on YouTube must have uploaded footage of them, like the intro from Kool and the Gang or the Beach Boys referencing an Ostrich Festival. The only person I could find is this Alexandra Heward on YouTube. And she uploaded a clip that showed a lot of the Ostrich Festival, maybe way too much, including like the rodeo, and she put some fun music underneath. But then it gets right to the point with the Beach Boys concert. So Derek, intern in the booth, you want to play that for us here?
Nay.
So it's just like showing the rodeo.
Here
It's all
and a
animal
nay,
themed.
there.
You know how it
Here a
goes.
nay, there a nay, everywhere a nay, nay. Old MacDonald.
Really
had
crank
a
it there,
farm.
Derek.
E-I-E-I-O.
Here's the Beach Boys now.
It's the mashup I never knew I needed.
This is the only footage on YouTube of this dumb thing. Is she just left the music underneath the entire Beach Boys
God.
concert?
I could have done without that.
When I
Yeah.
eventually go to hell, that's going to be just playing all the time.
Yeah.
Speaking of nightmares,
Yeah.
what would do you think you could eat an entire ostrich egg if I think about that a lot. Like someone saying,
That's a lot.
"Here's a scrambled egg, but it's an ostrich egg," and just sitting there, it would be so big
man.
and just so much egg.
I think I could
Does
do it.
Taste
Like-
good?
Yeah, I mean,
don't
are you
know.
doing it
I had it,
raw?
so-
No,
No, like
scrambled.
scrambled ostrich
Oh,
egg. Could you eat a
absolutely.
whole one? Like, have you seen an
I
ostrich
have
egg?
2 eggs a day. I could crack that ostrich egg like it's a Flintstones episode. Oh, scramble that? You got a
I'm
big enough
kidding.
pan?
2 eggs though. That's like comparing the Earth to like Jupiter.
I
Two
can eat
eggs is
Jupiter
nothing.
too in one morning.
What?
One gulp.
Oh my lord!
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, first email. Dan, ready?
I'm so
Brandon from Shanghai.
Brandon Brand?
That's where they
From
made.
Shanghai.
Where they made Far Cry 5's DLC.
It's true.
He says, hey, on May 31st, a 13-year-old reader requested some teen-rated open-world games for his PC. On the Game Informer show, I want to recommend Batman Arkham Asylum series and Subnautica. Okay, good.
Well done.
Good recommendation. Subnautica's
Thank you.
Subnautica's great.
Yeah, Subnautica's actually good. Luca from St. Paul, Minnesota says, hey, GI crew, based on your question last week about console first, with the Sega Nomad being the first handheld to play full console games, I had to bring up one of the most surprising early console innovations I've come across. The Mattel Intellivision, released in 1979, had a service called Play Cable that allowed subscribers to download games over a cable TV connection. Jeff Cork, do you know this?
I didn't know about the television when Atari 2600 had like one that you could do too.
They had a similar device called the
Yeah.
Game Line that
Yeah.
went bust even more quickly than Play Cable. But apparently Play Cable, it ran from 1981 to 1983 and was limited by the adapter's 6 kilobits of memory, which wasn't large enough for later, more complex Intellivision games. That is
Man.
bizarre.
And here I thought Sega TV was innovative.
No, everything comes from the past, man. Okay, Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh,
Here we
just
go. This is Chris.
Trip to Arizona today.
Hell yeah, man, down south.
Someone looked it up on the map. So you're really gunning for Arizona today.
Chris, Phoenix, Arizona, writes in and says, "Hey, dear GI crew,
Yep.
if you were in charge of E3 this year,
Oh boy.
what would you do to improve it?
I would make
Do you
Dan
want-
Tech go.
New rules for the press conferences, changes to help attendees, move to a new location, whatever you think would make E3 better."
What's that new rule for the press conference?
Everyone has to wear pants.
Well, Jeff Cork, if you're interested in making new rules for a press conference, I think there's only one way to do it. Hey, Derek, start the clock. All right, Jeff Cork, press conferences, new rules. Here
I
we
feel
go.
like I accidentally stepped on this bit, which I had no idea this was.
I know.
New rules.
Here's the rules for E3.
Yeah.
Make it Gamescom.
Make it Gamescom, you cowards. Having press days?
Having press days and then opening it up to the public
That's
on
good.
other days. Make it big.
That's good. Brian Shea, you got new rules for press conferences?
The
for E3?
Ubisoft Just Dance segment must last at least 20 minutes.
20 minutes, absolutely.
Doesn't it
Also,
already do that?
hey, new rule E3, talk about that Madden crap, but get Ubisoft's Just Dance dancers out there on the stage for something visually entertaining instead of Pele's
Or make
dumb
NFL
head.
players do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No sports at E3. Also, Dantac, new rule for E3, no more slow walking out on the stage. I want, like in Michael Jackson's This Is It, that documentary, they have like people launching out of the stage. I want those launchers. They say the person, bam, they're on the
Yeah.
stage. Getting right
And
to
if
the
they're
point.
going to walk
big-
on
it's
slowly
good.
while looking at the screen, they have to trip and fall on their face.
Yes, absolutely. New rules. If your game leaked, you don't get time on the stage. See
No one
ya.
would be there.
Yeah, that's right. I don't care. Get it the
The
hell out of there.
fastest, bestest E3 ever.
Yeah. Also, new rule: if your game's not coming out, don't announce it.
We got some real problems there.
Dantac, new rules E3. What do you got?
I do like the Gamescom idea in all seriousness. It really should be a split show.
Derek, will you please kill that music? We're trying to have a very serious conversation.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, what do you like?
I do like that. You know, that's a really good idea. I'm thinking about, practical stuff here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how the show has to change in my opinion. So
And that's true. Thank you, Chris from Arizona. That's very insightful. Okay. An
Well, that
attack
was fun.
corgi from Vancouver, British Columbia. Welcome. Says, "Hey guys, in honor of E3 coming soon, please introduce a game, Exquisite Corpse style. One panelist says a word to start the intro, and the next panelist adds the next word until you're at the end of an intro during a press conference at E3.
Oh boy.
Jeff Cork.
that's an interesting one.
Hello.
Today,
We
R.
Thrilled.
to
offer
R.
Finest.
take
on
The.
Battle.
Royale.
genre
Feces.
Naked.
Balls.
innovative
And.
Free to play. It's hyphenated.
Okay. Terrific.
community.
Play.
Microtransactions.
Today,
Gamers.
Rule. Thank you. That's a great one.
esports.
We all look forward to that. Chris from Oslo, Norway says, "Yo, crew. Hey, so a new Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been leaked, and according to the leak, it's set in ancient Greece. Correct. Ubisoft seemed to confirm that, which is cool and all, but why hasn't there been a mainline AC series set in Japan? Yeah, it's true. We talked about it last week. What do you think about the localization in Odyssey? Location in Odyssey, I think he means. What do you think about Greece, Dan Tack?
Let's do it.
Yeah?
I'm not a huge AC guy, but Greece is cool.
More about the heat.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Shay. I'm excited to see it. Like, I like Greece. I took some Greek history courses in college and stuff. Like, I think I'm gonna play this one, Dan. I think it's a very exciting setting for that
I'll
game.
have to obviously see something other thing because if it defies that, there's nothing wrong with those games. I know a lot of people love them. It's just
Right.
the whole like go to do the mini quest and go back to the main line. It's just
Yeah.
it's a little played out for me.
Okay, but
just
what
for me.
if they have another Discovery tour for Greece, Dan?
I like the Discovery Tour concept, and I think that would be something that I would get into, especially if it's like a more fleshed out thing. Which,
Yeah.
Obviously they don't have the resources to devote to that, but
Right.
I'm certainly curious about that.
Yeah.
I want Ubisoft to do a monkey's paw thing where they're like, all right, we've got Japan and an era that predates samurai and the invention of the sword. Enjoy. It's like
What do you want?
cavemen
Rolling
in
hills.
Japan.
It's everything you want.
That would
Why
be
is
pretty
everyone
funny.
mad?
I'm in with like Greece as a location. I just I don't know what to think about. I hope that it takes some changes from Origins. Like I really didn't like that combat style at all.
Oh, you didn't like Origins?
I liked the world and I like the characters a lot in Origins, but
Yeah.
I just don't like a lot of the gameplay.
Really? Interesting. We'll see more at E3. Good old Walters writes in. He says, hey, what's up? With the new Plucky Pokeball peripheral proceeding to populate shelves, thank you for the P. I got our poppers on today. How long do you think it'll take for people to start Pokeball speedruns? I can imagine that scene jumping onto a trend like this, that any percent Pokeball run of Mario Odyssey or Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. How about Smash players who choose to play only with a Pokeball? It's going to be a big thing.
Sure. I mean, to people who played Dark Souls with drums, this is going to be, sure, absolutely.
It's going to be a wild
Dark
world.
Souls remastered with the Pokeball.
There it is.
Mm.
Get on YouTube right there.
There it is. Kyler. He says, hey, Game Informer, I'm 14 years old and from Tokyo. Welcome. I love the show. First time writing in. Thank you. I was listening to the great things you were saying about Tokyo in your last episode, and you're discussing the new Pokemon game and how the society is very different in both positive and negative ways than American society. I was wondering what your favorite video game societies are and what cool or weird things make them unique. My personal favorite in recent memory is the villagers in Stardew Valley. They'll bring a humble feeling, and you're able to go into deeper with each of their individual stories. Thank you, Kyler. Kyler's an interesting name. Favorite video game societies.
So my joke one is going to be Leo for his fully realized Hitman societies. But
That
moving on, the real one I
joke
would say
killed.
Shadowrun for the SNES. That was the
What?
first, that was my first time experiencing that sort of cyberpunk dystopian vibe.
Yeah.
It really did it for me, like mixing magic and fantasy and vampires and orcs and
Yeah.
magic.
But it
and
seems like a nice
guns.
place to live, too.
Hey, sure. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
pretty cool. Yeah.
You can do in Shadow.
Let's do it.
You got trench coats. You got ladies with tails.
Dude, it's everything I need.
You have booze that they can't call it booze.
Sounds like the Antiques apartment.
It does.
I don't know if it would be a nice place to live, but like Spyro from Final Fantasy X, I really like that as like a society of like people who are just constantly like.
But that's the
I
entire
like-
world, right?
Yeah, but like,
If you have to choose a town in 10, though.
oh man,
Freaky Blitzballville?
Luca.
Which one's that?
That's the Blitzball town.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah, sure. That seems pretty cool. They got a big stadium.
Yeah.
They
Well,
got
Spirit,
tournaments.
yeah, it's the vibe is kind of all over the place. It's kind of like overall the world is a little bit more tropical and rustic. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I liked pre Final Fantasy X Xanarkand when they were all like technological, like in the opening scene.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I also like Mass Effect, like the Citadel.
Go there.
That was kind of cool.
That's cute. Adam from Utah writes in and says, hey, I've been and others. I was pursuing game designer job listings when I saw one for EA. Here's a quote from the listing. Quote, at Electronic Arts, we put our players first, and we're looking for the most talented and creative game developers in the world to help us become the world's #1 mobile gaming company. Mobile is the future of our industry and the future of our company. This last sentence made my face twist in disgust.
Certainly, current generation mobile titles are often plagued with disgusting microtransactions and bad gameplay. Absolutely, but you have to consider. I think that statement is probably pretty accurate, considering that the install base for phones is literally everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know. Why don't they make a new Dead Space?
I like that too, but what I like and what we're gonna get are not the same.
I mean, Dead Space 3 was pretty close to a mobile game with its microtransactions.
How dare you insult? We gave it a 9.75. You can't insult it on this podcast, this fine establishment. Yeah, it is disgusting. It is one of those things where you see it and you want to wince, but you realize, hey, everybody, Electronic Arts is a company. Sometimes it's exactly the type of company that the internet fears in the deepest, darkest forums online. But after all, they're going to make those mobile games. No way around it. Jeff Cork?
I guess we could stop feeding into that. Like,
I don't blame him.
I mean, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, you're right, man. David Blessman writes in and says, hey, dear GI crew, you know what would make this podcast better? A solo Star Wars special. Where's my breakdown of Solo? We did that. It wasn't in the podcast feed, but you can find it on GameInformer.com or also on YouTube. We talked about that movie for like an hour. Jeff Cork, I'm shocked you haven't seen that movie yet.
I've been sick.
Oh,
I've been
really?
busy.
I haven't seen it either.
I think it's kind of telling. You know, it's a lot of people wondering, like, what is it, Star Wars fatigue? Why is it not doing as well in the box office? And the fact that, like, two people who I think like Star Wars a fair amount have not made time for it. I think
It's
that's
a
all you
little
need
Star
to know.
Wars fatigue for me, I think.
Yeah?
Like, Last Jedi was like 6 months ago.
I guess so.
Like, I don't know.
Like, are your kids begging to see it at all, Cork?
No,
Anything
I don't
like
have
that?
any kids. Oh.
I know. Anything, Cork?
No. No one in our family cares.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see it before it leaves theaters, but I'll probably just wait for Blu-ray.
That's wild.
Maybe I'll skip E3 one day. I'll play hooky.
Yeah.
I just say the games I saw weren't worth writing about. But
There you
I'm
go.
actually watching a
Well, why wouldn't you just
solo
go see The Incredibles 2?
Why
that'll
not
be very
both?
Exciting.
There you go.
Joe Swack writes in and says, "Did you know that Microsoft's Game Pass allows you to play certain games like Sea of Thieves on PC? Why have I never heard anyone talk about this?"
Well, Sea of Thieves certainly did blow up on the PC. That's all we played there on the PC.
How
Well,
dare
I think
you.
there's so many other ways to play games and get good deals on games on PC. So like,
I guess so, but it
fair.
still is. I think it deserves more attention because Game Pass is a weird deal where you pay that amount and then you get those games in that bundle for free. And I don't think Microsoft
do.
is messaging it much because they want to
Yeah.
sell Xbox Ones. The idea that, hey, you can just open up that godforsaken Windows store
But I think,
and you
know,
can find those
that's
games
the other
in there.
thing.
if,
It's
if you
tethered
want
to
to
the
talk
Windows
about
Store.
if you want to talk about why nobody uses it, nobody uses the Windows Store for games.
Yeah.
It's you know how it is on PC.
It really is wild. Like, if you just sort it by top games, because it's the Windows Store, it's all just
all
free to play,
garbage.
bejeweled
Candy Crush,
clones.
yeah.
Yeah,
Candy Crush,
it's
yeah.
insane. And then, like, somewhere around number 7, they have State of Decay. It's like, all right, that's what I wanted to play on my PC. Here we go.
Yeah.
I guess this will work.
It's weird, but that's another thing. It's so just to touch upon it, since this is like E3, right? It's like
Yeah.
anything that gets revealed at the Microsoft press conference, I can play on my PC.
Yeah.
So like, great.
Even if they don't mention it, you should remember that. But I
Yeah.
think they will. I think they'll push.
they always
PC
say
hard.
play anywhere. So
Yeah, that's true. I really think now that they are going to announce that all the Halo games are going to be on PC this year at E3.
Which is
you
big
think there's
deal.
gonna be like a Master Chief collection for
Totally.
PC and then Halo? Is Halo 5 already on PC or
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think Halo 3 might be.
Like,
There's some
Halo
Halos.
1 was like a long time
Right,
ago. Like,
Gearbox made that freaky version.
oh
Yeah.
boy, that's how I played it for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Would that move the needle for any of you guys? Like,
No.
here's this big Halo bundle.
I think it's a
on
nice,
PC.
cute thing they could do.
Halo bundle, no.
The Halo
New
Ultimate Collection or
new
something.
Halo thing potentially.
Yeah,
If
Halo
I-
6 I'd be
Because
happy
I
for.
love Halo 1 a lot, and if I didn't own an Xbox One, I'd be super excited about the idea of Master Chief Collection coming to PC. I think so. It's just a matter of messaging and whether or not people know that they can play Halo 2 online multiplayer, all that fun stuff on their PC, which could get an audience,
Mhm.
but who the hell knows?
Yeah, so Halo 1 and Halo 3 made the jump, but Halo 2 and Halo 4 and 5 didn't.
I assume 2 is out there on PC.
I think it was going to be, and then I don't think it ever happened because I remember I was waiting for it on PC, and I was like, "Screw it, I'll just buy an Xbox."
Interesting.
Maybe it came out eventually, but
Henrik from Norway, he always says he hates the show. Thank you. He says, hello, I have a little game for you guys. I'm going to name 10 levels, characters, weapons, etc. from a game. You have to guess what the game is. First person to guess what the
boy.
game is wins.
Do we do buzz with our name?
How
How is this happening?
Just like you get used to this rules.
no, let's just go with the name of the game.
okay.
Just go ahead and yell it out. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, first one. He says, we begin with an easy one. Characters. May.
Overwatch.
There we go. This game is easy. Levels.
Mm-hmm.
Control center. Surface. Depot.
Call of Duty.
Incorrect.
Oh,
Counter-Strike.
Incorrect. Water caverns. Streets. Jungle. Runway. Bunker. Frigate. Facility.
oh, GoldenEye.
There we go. Characters. Oh boy. Hoi Quarlo.
Uh-oh.
Hiki Kagero. Mad Clown. Narcissus Prince. Aaron Ryan. Mr. Sandman. All right, ready? Bear Hugger.
Oh, is this Punch Out?
Incorrect. Super Macho Man. Gabby J.
Oh, you asshole.
Super Punch
Super
Out,
Punch
ladies and
Out.
gentlemen. All right, weapons. Ready?
Okay.
Time Bomb. Tesla Claw. Buzz Blades. Plasma Whip. Agents of Doom. Groova Bomb. Mr. Zircon. Sheepinator.
Some
Sheepinator.
kind of Ratchet and Clank.
There we
thing.
go. Otherwise known as Ratchet and Clank. Bosses. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bosses. Marching Milda. Tap Tap the Red Nose. Sluggy the Unshaven. I think that was Jeff Cork's
Tough.
name. Prince Froggy. Raphael the Raven. Bart the Bashful. The Potted Ghost. Bigger Boo. Naval Piranha. Baby Bowser.
Super Mario Sunshine.
Incorrect.
I don't know Mario, so
Yoshi's Island, ladies and gentlemen. Yoshi's Island. All right.
Potted Ghost.
Potted Ghost. They're all having fun. Enemies from a game. Taboo, Boogie, Mr. Boojangles, Turbo, Peekaboo,
Luigi's
Shamboo.
Mansion?
There we go. Underboo, Game Boo, Game Boo. Yeah, Underboo. They have a game. They have a Game
Side
Boo
Boo.
and a Game Boo Advance as well, and then King Boo.
Oh wow.
That's very good. Thank you so
Wow.
much.
That
What
is
a
a good
wonderful
one.
game.
Delightful.
Delightful.
Fun game.
Taylor from Greensboro, North Carolina says, "Hey, crew, after playing God of War, I feel like there are a lot of similarities in the movie Logan. Kratos and Logan were hot-headed heroes or trying to just live out their lives in their old cage. Atreus and Laura are trying to find their place in the world, and their dad's trying to make sure they don't follow in their footsteps. What do you guys think? Will the aging hero become more of a trend over the next few years in games?"
As creators get old.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, people reflect their own lives, which is a nice thing, a good thing, a positive thing. Do you think the industry will ever get tapped out? Is it going to be the new battle royale as an aging hero?
No, I don't think you can apply the same trend chasing thing. This is just going to be sort of an after effect, not something that they're trying to do for to get on top of that MOBA
Right.
battle royale.
And also, like, big franchises sell, so obviously the most interesting way or the easiest way to continue a story is just keep going down that timeline, like we saw it with Gears of War
Right.
4. Like, we had old
Exactly.
Marcus Phoenix, but it also introduced the next generation of characters.
Right. Metal Gear Solid 4 refused to introduce the next generation of characters. Everything you want there. Yeah, I think of like, in terms of developers reflecting themselves more in the game, something that's interesting is I remember on the Uncharted 4 cover story trip, they touched on it a little bit, but it was nice that it was still, even in the interviews, kind of a subtle thing, just talking about Drake's pull towards adventure versus like staying home with his family and how he feels guilty, but he loves going on adventure. Just the easy analogy of like that's game development. That was the analogy that the developers were pulling from, which is a fun idea.
And also, it gives them different ways to like expand on those characters. Like with Drake, like his priorities are obviously shifting, and that's something that happens when you get older, and it's a great way to like explore that character further.
Yeah. How are your priorities shifting, Brian?
Just constantly.
You have really big muscles. Every once in a while, I remind myself that you're a very strong man.
Whoa.
Thank you.
It's true.
Well,
That
I
wasn't a
appreciate
compliment, though. Actually, Jay.
It does play to my detriment often.
Tom Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota
Tom
says,
Awesome.
"Hello, Game Informers."
Right down the road.
There we
Just
go.
the best guy ever.
There we
Tom
go.
Awesome.
Kiss the mic. He says, "I successfully brought life into the world. I purchased sea monkeys." No. He says, "Could you please give a shout out to my baby girl, Daisy K. Sedlasic? Do you know how to pronounce his name?
If we're going to give a shout out, we have to pronounce it right.
All right, I'm going to wing it. Shout out to new human being Daisy K. Sedlasic.
Yeah, the less we
Sedlasic.
say about the mom, the better. Yeah, he brought this child into the world.
Come on,
He
Tom does
created
something.
life.
Leave him alone. Leave him alone. There we go.
There you go, Tom.
There we go. Mason Parker here. Hello. So I've been playing a ton of Divinity Original Sin 2 based on the stellar recommendation from Dan Tack in an
right.
episode last September. Unlike that Joe Juba who insisted that you never buy it. He
It's
says,
a wonderful game.
that's right. I'm absolutely loving it. It's absolutely incredible. Anyways, my question is this. I'm a dad of a 2-year-old who works about 60 hours a week running my restaurant with my brother. So I don't have a ton of free time.
Does it say Brutta in
No.
there? Do you, okay.
No, that's car talk coming through. I tried playing the game on normal difficulty, but found it was too time consuming. So I begrudgingly dropped it down to explorer mode. Does this make me less of a hardcore gamer? Am I what the cool young kids these days called a scrub now? Will we ever find out what Dantech's favorite band is? I need answers.
I mean, I did answer the band thing.
He says, thanks. I'm from Grand Prairie, Texas, by the way. Oh, and he says
All right.
that we can eat at his restaurant if we ever go to Dallas. That's
I'm
nice.
going to Dallas.
Let's go
so,
right now.
So does it make him less of a hardcore gamer?
Yeah.
Yes, but whatever that is, who cares? If he's enjoying the game on Explorer, then go nuts.
Your 2-year-old
Yeah.
won't shame you.
I mean, there are older, or not older games, but like longer games that I need to keep moving in the game that I'm playing, so I will switch it down to easy just to like experience the story. Like I don't think
Yeah.
there's any shame in that. Like
Especially Divinity Original 2 is a tough game on normal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
So,
Yeah, no
it-
shame.
For me, it's
None.
usually not like an issue of the difficulty. It's an issue of like I need to get through this game so I can get on to the next thing.
That's true. And especially with some games, I think it works better for others. Like Uncharted, it's like, I'm going to play that on easy because I just want to power through this stuff and feel like a superhero, you know?
I think it's still a challenge to explore, and we'll see what the definitive edition is coming up.
Ooh, that's
They might even
exciting.
add more stuff
Yeah,
like that.
who knows?
That's when I'm jumping in.
Shay, you're going to play everything later.
Oh yeah,
You know what that's called? It's called future bias. You think that your future self is going to make time for these games.
that's true.
Ooh.
Mike from Walnut Creek, California says, hello, Benny and the Jets. Hello. My birthday is this week, and nothing would make me happier than having Dan Tack stare directly into the camera,
Mm.
that camera over there,
That
Dan,
one. All right, you got it.
and say, "That's Battle Royale, baby."
Just say it, or does he want some?
I think he wants you to
pull
say.
your
Spanish.
top off.
That's Battle Royale, baby.
I'm sorry, we're gonna need another take of that. I was talking. Can we just get a clean take?
Sure,
just
you
real
got
quick.
That's Battle Royale, baby.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry.
I started talking. I
Yeah,
don't know why.
I'm
I don't
sorry.
either.
Very
I'm
good.
not doing it
Control yourself.
again.
All right, Dan, just
I'm not doing it
one
again.
more take into the camera.
No.
Just a nice clean take.
Sorry.
Jeff Cork,
I
can you
tried
give
to do a
take
clean
from this
take.
camera here.
That's Battle Royale, baby.
There we go. Tanner writes in. Tanner from Augsburg, Germany. He says, if I understand correctly from the Detroit segment in last week's podcast, the game shows the percentage of the past taken on the flowchart and ask players survey questions before showing the poll numbers when done. I love this in games. I was wondering if you guys had any favorite games that reveal player behavioral or poll data, or have games you wish the developers surfaced data for. My favorite game, Catherine, will ask questions to the player at the end of each level, like, would you date someone who was already married? And then they show the response on a chart afterwards. It also plays a no morality system. Whatever. Meanwhile, I really wish Pyre surface play data. How many people cut off Rookie's mustache? That was a good question.
It's funny because those are actually two of my examples were Catherine and Detroit with like the questions and the surveys.
Yeah.
But I like getting kind of more to like a statistics thing. I really like Overwatches. Like you can go into your career profile and see like exactly how many hours you've played with each hero in what
Yeah.
mode and like how many hours you've been on the payload or on the point. Like it's pretty granular they get in
I
Overwatch.
love that stuff. And like
Yeah.
the easy example too is like Telltale at the end of every episode when they show you the choices. And
Except
I'm
it
always
like works
fingers
half
crossed.
the time.
Well, of course, it's Telltale. But I'm like fingers are crossed that I'm always going to be in the underdog. It's like, oh, if I'm in that slim percentage, I think I'm so cool. Everybody wants to be me. Dan, you like data?
That's Battle Royale, baby.
There we go. This is Shane who writes
Ship
in.
it.
He says, hello, Ben Hansen and Dan Reichert. After Helgeson and Tim Turry, I'm just assuming he's next on the list of returning guests or whatever. He's from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The mouth is kind of like nature's port, isn't it?
It really is.
Anyways, he says, for years I lived in Washington, D.C., and the Washington football team had a kicker named Kai Forbath.
Yes, they did.
Really? I always used to jokingly refer to him as Jedi Master Kai Forbath because his name seems so absurdly perfect for a Star Wars character. When a listener recently wrote in asking for you to differentiate between real and fake video game studios, it made me think of a game I've long played with friends using the Star Wars franchise. I pick one of the countless Star Wars Extended Universe books at random on the Star Wars Wiki and choose 10 random names from the book, then invent 10 names of my own and challenge him to determine which are real and which are fake. He has listed this all out. 10 of the following names are from the Star Wars Expanded Universe novel Rogue Planet. All right, it's up to you guys to determine. Are these real or fake Star Wars names?
J.V. Gwaltney.
What's the best Jay Leno's wife, Cork?
Oh, I can't remember who said it. It was Mavis Leno. Sounds like the most perfect Star Wars name.
Okay, here we go. Reedon Drysus.
That's true. Real.
Fake.
Fake. Key Daive.
That's real.
That's real. Lazo.
Real.
Lasso.
Real.
That's fake.
Ah,
Thracia Cho Lim.
that's fake.
What's gotta be real?
That's real.
God.
Admiral
0 for 4.
Admiral Pila.
Real.
How's it spelled? May I have it in the
It's got Admiral. It's got Admiral in it.
Admiral Pila, close the reactor.
Oh, that's real.
I'm sorry, that's fake.
Oh.
Keelar Oth Matar.
Keelar.
That's real. 100%.
Fake.
That's fake.
Oh.
Charza Quinn.
Charza.
Charza
It's gotta be
Quinn.
fake. That's too ridiculous.
Fake.
Real. Gone. Gann.
Real.
Real. Vidge. I don't know if I can say that.
Vidge.
Vidge is real. Shikla Fars.
Fake.
Just sounds like a noise you make as a kid.
Fake.
Fake.
That's real.
God.
Trevis
tough.
Salsera.
sounds like a
That's fake.
salad sauce. Fake.
That's fake. Kor Velkar.
I'm saying real.
Fake. God. Captain Ket.
Oh, that's real.
Yeah.
100% real. Captain Corin.
There's another captain. Lots of captains here.
That sounds too normal to be real.
I'm gonna go with fake on the basis of captains.
That's fake. Jabbatha Hall.
Jabba the Hutt.
no
Fake.
fake.
That is real.
Oh god.
Honestly, he doesn't say this. Shane doesn't say it, but I think you guys should read Rogue Planet. It's really a good book.
So is this the stuff that was retconned,
Yeah.
or
Honestly,
yeah, I
we
guess
did-
it's
we did
not
pretty
canon.
good.
These are no longer canonical Star Wars names, technically, I guess, unless they choose to cherry pick Jabba the Hull and bring her back.
Can you imagine the day that Wikipedia found out that none of that stuff mattered anymore?
Oh my god!
Your
Like
life's
the main
work.
editors. Oh god. It's so sad. What is it? I want to talk to people to figure out what are the pros and cons, or like the do's and do nots for Star Wars names, because it's just vowels.
Mm-hmm.
It's heavy emphasis nest on vowels, but I don't know beyond that. It's a magical thing. What do you guys
is
like
magic.
for email of the week?
Wow, there were some really good ones this week.
I like the game of like what game is this from? That was
I
fun.
like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I like the change to E3.
I like change to E3.
That was cool.
We had an E3 winner last week.
Well, 'tis the season.
Tis the season. Star Wars is always good.
I like the. Okay, you know what? I like the Star Wars one. That was
Yeah.
that was dumb fun.
Okay, you know what? You're totally right. Congratulations.
Where are they from?
Did an Arizonan win?
Oh my gosh! I pray to God.
Where are they
Portsmouth.
from? Oh gosh.
Hang
where
on,
are
let
they
me
from?
get this.
I think it was Portsmouth.
No, this is Shane from Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
All right, let's see it on the map, buddy.
Right there,
Portsmouth,
there.
New
All right.
Hampshire.
Hey, that's it. Thank you so much. Write into podcast@gameformer.com. You can be on the show in the future. You can put your big city on the board. Make sure to say where you're from. Anything that makes the show better. Podcast@gameformer.com. Dan Tack,
Hey,
you know Bethesda Game Studios?
I'm aware of them. Yes.
They have a long, complicated history. Remember, they worked on like Terminator games and hockey games, all sorts of weird
They've
stuff
worked on
back
a lot
then.
of things.
Wouldn't it be nice if someone made a nice, well-done documentary that chronicled the entire history of Bethesda Game Studios?
That would be very interesting.
All right. Well, Danny O'Dwyer from Noclip did that. He's a fascinating guy from GameSpot, going back in the days of yore, and now he runs Noclip. And we have an interview with him coming up on the show.
Really?
Here it
He's
is.
a good guy.
All right. Here's Danny. Danny O'Dwyer, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor. I've been a fan of you guys for a long, long time. Some of my friends have worked there, and some of my friends work there now, I guess. So
That's right. Yeah, Dan Reichert, I guess we have in common. I guess we're both at his wedding, but I feel like we shared 2 sentences, and that was about it.
Yeah, it's difficult to talk about work when you're at a non-work event. All we ever seem to do is talk about work. But I'm glad to be here talking to you about work today.
Yeah, it's really an honor. And I love, fellow video guy, I love you have the exact same mic that I have on this end. Never before has that happened in the history of Game Informer Show interviews. So you're a real pro, man. It's showing from the beginning.
Well, I do feel like we're kind of kindred spirits, right? Because there's a lot of people who work in games coverage, and then there's a lot of people who work in video side of games coverage now. Definitely lots more than when either of us started. But I do feel like the work that we do is quite like we're using the sort of platform we have in a similar way. We're trying to, sort of have really authentic conversations with developers. So I've always really appreciated the work you've done. So
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, I get to look up to you because you get to be this rebel going off and doing your own thing. And everybody talks big game, especially on Patreon. And I feel like there's few people who can let the rubber meet the road in the way that Kind of Funny does. I feel like you do, where the output is just absurd from you. I cannot imagine how much time you spend editing these things.
Thanks so much. I think the one good thing about not having a sort of a regular gig, right, is that I don't have like 70% of my brain being taken up by just normal day-to-day stuff that I need to do.
Right.
So I can really concentrate on it. And I think when you're in that position, it's interesting how free-flowing the sort of ideas come from that. But I will say that this particular doc we've just finished on, the History of Bethesda one and our Fallout 76 stuff that's coming out next week, this was particularly challenging from that perspective because we try to be really transparent with our patrons with what we're doing with their money. And we've been sitting on this for so long, man. So to be able to actually finally talk about it was such a weight off my shoulders because it just looked like the Warframe doc went up in February and then we did nothing. Basically, we started a podcast and put 1 episode up. So
it's good. It's good. Even the podcast, just real quick, that tangent. I listened to the episode and it's like, Danny, what are you doing? Just make it a raw interview. Like, stop editing everything. It's just overproduced to hell in a good way,
There's enough podcasts out there that I feel like it's the same thing with the video stuff. It's like when I left GameSpot, I just didn't want to make stuff that I could have made at GameSpot. Like,
right.
You have to, make the best with what the opportunity being given. So I felt the same with the podcast. I was like all I do, man, is like this whole like past couple of weeks, I've been capturing gameplay from all of these old Bethesda games, and all I do is sit here and I've just got podcasts playing and playing and playing. Like I love listening to gaming podcasts.
Yeah,
there's no shortage of them. So the only thing I could do was like, look, if I'm going to do one, we'll make it weird. We'll put in like audio effects and stuff and try and tell stories and see if it works like a radio play. And it seemed to. So yeah, looking forward to episode 2. Will be about Theme Hospital. That's out after.
Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm very interested in how you see the work compared to your work at GameSpot. 'Cause you went to GameSpot. I love it because I was a big fan of GameSpot as well, still am.
Me too.
And so growing up, just seeing you, every tweet you have, where you're like, oh, it's just so satisfying to finally work at a place that I've been a fan of my entire life. It's like, oh, I landed at Game Informer, but GameSpot was like, that was my heart and soul as a kid. And so satisfying. Like every tweet you have about that really wrecks me. Every tweet where you share a timeline from Premiere, it's like, I love it. I love it. More of that stuff. Just let it all out there. But go ahead.
No. I was about to say I have a lot of people complaining to me that I don't nest sequences. Is what they tell me which is actually like, that's a good point. I probably should do that more. It doesn't look as sexy, but it probably would help a bit.
It's less impressive. You don't get to see all the little details in there that way. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. But I'm interested in that shift from GameSpot to doing Noclip documentaries, which are releasing all the time on YouTube here, and especially the shift into focusing on games after they've been released. I know with Bethesda and Fallout 76, it's kind of that twist. I want to get to that eventually, but I'm so jealous because going on cover story trips, it's so early. We're lucky if we can get anything more than a teaser trailer for B-roll to just loop again and again and again as any form of B-roll. Whereas you, like your Horizon doc, you got to show that amazing early test footage of like the first build of that game. What is it like to be going into those studios so long after the fact and just have them basically, I'd imagine, open up the cabinets and say, hey, have at it?
Totally. I mean, like the first reason or moment I realized that was the case was when we did the Doom 2016 documentary.
Yeah.
And they actually like handed us footage of the unreleased Doom 4, like it had never been seen before. I think there was this sort of blind spot when I was working at GameSpot, which perhaps you can empathize with. I remember talking to Dan about the cover story stuff, where that was a really unique situation to be in, where you couldn't really talk about these games. It was hard to try and like make the content, right? It's like a struggle to make the content when it comes to preview stuff. And when I joined GameSpot, I was a massive fan of GameSpot for years. And I remember they used to do a bunch of stuff with interviews with developers, and they kind of stopped doing it. And then by the time I had actually finally broken into the games industry and was at GameSpot, I realized that they kind of stopped doing previews. There was sort of a moratorium on them because people didn't find them interesting, because people were talking to developers about their games and they had their shtick, you know what I mean? They had their like, oh, here are the things we're talking about, and they were media trained and all that sort of stuff. And what I think I realized after I did we did sort of like long formy preview stuff with this project that Giancarlo Viernini made at GameSpot called The Next Big Game.
Yeah.
And then we did one, I forget what it was on, but we did one on something that was out, or something that was like so close. It might have been The Witcher, or it might have been the Overwatch one. And I realized like, oh, if you talk to these people once the game is like out, they're fucking more than happy to tell you about it. You know what I mean? Sorry, I shouldn't curse.
No, go for it.
They're more than happy to talk about it. Because which makes sense, right? It's like whenever you're working on something, it's really difficult to expose the bones of it, especially in the world of gaming, where gamers, man, they just like they look at every single frame to try and get that little bit of information that they're not supposed to get. Whereas after the fact, they're just like, whatever, like I'll tell you about it, and no one was asking. So it was this weird blind spot. And I realized when I was at GameSpot that I was like, oh, we should be doing more and more and more of this. And eventually I kind of reached this point where I realized my career at GameSpot was probably where it was. Yeah. And like I've always been more of a entrepreneur, I guess. I made my first website company when I was like 15 years old. It was the first company I ever trademarked, right? Like I've always liked controlling stuff. And I think when I realized, I'm just going to be a personality on this website, it's like, that's not really what I really want to do. I want to like make something, Yeah. So when I left, I thought, oh, let's focus on that stuff. Let's focus on games that have just come out and go super deep, like way deeper than we did at GameSpot.
It's so smart, because my greatest fear is having a developer who's just has 1,000 stories to tell, and they're so passionate about it, and they feel so clamped down by PR and just not wanting to spoil anything before the game comes out. The game comes out and they have nowhere to go. It's like, what are they going to do? Start a podcast, get it approved from the publisher? Like, that's where I feel like the press can really dive in. Hopefully we've done a little bit on this podcast throughout the years, but just dive in there and try and pull some stories from these people, because they've had a raging passion for this game for probably 3 to 4 years, and just getting some opportunity to let it all out instead of just the most canned preview-focused content going forward.
Totally. And I think what we're seeing now, and it probably, was as much of a blind spot as it also is kind of like emblematic of the changing face of games, is that like before, right, like 5-10 years ago, games came out and then you played them and that was the end of the conversation. Whereas now what we're seeing a lot more of is not only, live games, for instance, like Destiny or Warframe, which we did a doc on a couple of months back, but also just like communities of people around games. So like now we release a, documentary on the history of Bethesda. You've got all of these people who grew up playing Morrowind, or maybe the first Elder Scrolls was Skyrim, or maybe they're a big Fallout fan, or like there are these large communities of people that are like super invested in the games. And, a lot of the sort of, extra life that happens with these games is community stuff. And the developers weren't really part of that conversation. So it's kind of just a natural extension of the way that games have sort of created these communities around themselves.
Yeah, like your Hillbillies of GTA 5 documentary is fascinating, where I never thought I'd be interested in that type of thing, but completely absorbed into this small community that is really focused on that. Because myself, like I played GTA 5 when it came out, and then just really haven't gone back to it since. But I always wonder, like, what are people doing? What is the actual community like? And it's a real, tangible community where it's changing family lives overall.
Right, and I think like that's also a battle that folks in the press sort of struggle with. Like maybe me less so now that I'm not doing the day-to-day that I was, but like in your position, right, where you're trying to like cover games, a lot of games before you release. Whereas what we're sort of seeing a lot now in terms of like, certainly when I was at GameSpot through like the analytics and stuff we had, was that people are playing less games, but they're playing those games more often. So they're way more embedded into one game. So it's kind of fun as like a creator now to be able to like really dive into them. Like when we did the Final Fantasy 14 doc last year, I've never played a Final Fantasy game, dude.
Really?
Like I think maybe I played 7 for 5 minutes at a friend's house.
You get it.
I knew nothing about those games. I remember I did a history of Final Fantasy video at GameSpot UK, and the bit in the video was that I knew nothing, and we had Mark actually write and host that episode. So, I knew nothing. So it was fun because I got to like play Final Fantasy 14 for like 6 weeks, and
there's a lot of footage. It was like what, a 2-hour doc altogether? How many?
Yeah, it was long. It was probably that long a lot as well because it was all in Japanese, and like it's very difficult to edit people speaking a foreign language, so the answers just got longer.
Yeah, it's tough because you don't know like what you can trim out. Where English speaker, it's like, okay, the I know he's stumbling over his words here, but in Japanese, like that could be a crucial word. I have no idea. But 14,
the Japanese for is ano is what I've learned.
Yep.
But I also didn't want to trim out a lot of those because I was like worried that maybe in this context it doesn't mean that. I don't know. So I left it all.
Yeah, I was amazed in the B-roll for that one. Even that you had like multiple players. It wasn't just like the same MMO player, like character moving throughout. Like you're jumping around, especially all that like original Final Fantasy 14 footage. I was just amazed you had so much of that stuff.
So what we did for that, actually, we'd also did it for the Warframe community, which was that we put out a call. I basically like reached out to a bunch of like communities, subreddits, and was like, look, we're making this thing. We make these docs. They're free. We're not going to like monetize your footage or any of that stuff. They're free. The story's about your game. We need footage. We need variety. We need different eras, different parts of the planet, different whatevers. Can you send them to us? And just floods, man. It just the amount of goodwill we've had on that. And I will say that was actually a bit of a problematic issue with this one, the Bethesda one, because we need to reach out to people before we use their footage, or if we do,
right?
Because we do use footage, but I don't like to put up lower thirds for like this is from this YouTube channel because it really breaks the flow of the piece.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of instances on this one where we used footage from like someone's YouTube channel for like Redguard or Daggerfall, and I literally could not contact them because it was going to give away the whole project, and we couldn't talk about it for millions of reasons. So there's like a couple of pieces of footage in the new one that like we credit them in the credits, but we don't during the doc. But it's that type of like fine tooth sort of production you can do when you're only working on one project for 6 weeks, which that's what I really love about it. So I really try and make it so that every single thing we make that I can watch it a year later and be like, okay, we did that to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And that Redguard clip in that Bethesda doc is so funny. Just the weird voices all layering at each other. It's like, ooh la la. Just it's nonsense. It's amazing how
that game was fun. That was we also in that section of the doc, we intentionally scrub out the audio for the first time, and it gets a little bit behind the scenesy with Ash sort of telling us his name and his job title and stuff. And the idea behind that was to sort of like it's important in these docs to like not make puff pieces, and this one was tough because it's such a nostalgic retrospective.
Right.
So we get into stuff that they probably wouldn't necessarily like to talk about. Like we talked about the Fallout 4 leak and talked about bugs a bunch and stuff like that. We didn't get into like, nothing really stood out to me as stuff that we should really get into that's like super nitty gritty weird, or that they wouldn't want to talk about necessarily, except for that stuff.
Even like New Vegas, you could tell like some people are more open to talking about it than others, but
yeah, and I like the feeling that I got from them on New Vegas was that they just like it was like something that was done maybe not with their like, they maybe preferred if it hadn't been, perhaps. I don't know, it was like a corporate decision, and they sort of had their eyes on Skyrim at the time, and that, that was the other thing. Like there was some New Vegas stuff, like people's desks in the studio. There are people there who are definitely fans of that game, but like there's key art everywhere, right? Like you guys have been there, right? You did the tour, right?
For
You
sure.
did that tour video.
Oh, you saw that? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, go watch it now. So you've seen all that key art, right? And there's no New Vegas thing, so something like that. But that section, for instance, where we like drop the audio, it's just one of those moments to like let them like be humans with faults who have made things that weren't great, and let's have a laugh about it, because it's important not to sort of evangelize them too much. Like we try and make it, these developers are human. We try and edit it so that we show the sort of best version of them, but not like some fake version of them.
Yeah, you're not showing God Howard here. And actually, I think like the most interesting part of that documentary was you talking about the leaks about Fallout 4 with Todd Howard. Just seeing, Todd is very good. I feel like he's a pretty reserved guy. Every video I've shot with him, I feel like I still don't know what the genius is here. I feel like there's still a nut to crack in that brain. And I hope in some of your bonus content, you get a little bit more of that in there. But I love just watching him kind of process like, some of the leaks, there are a couple that weren't that big of a deal. I guess one was, but you just got to let it roll off your shoulders. It's like, man, I bet that super didn't roll off your shoulders, Todd, at the time.
Yeah, and you can tell, right? So like that's one of those moments where it's like you can tell. There's like this word in like Japanese, I forget what it is. It's or this concept of where it's like the truth that's being told, and then the truth that's actually there, but you can see it through what's being told. And I feel like if we don't get them to say the thing that they were really thinking, but you can kind of already tell,
right?
That's enough for me. So there's so much stuff that to even get that to under 90 minutes was like crazy. So we do have a bunch of extra like stuff that's coming out after the 76 doc next week as well. So there'll be a lot more interesting insight with him on that, and then also we'll have some fun little vignettes where we dive in. Like we scrubbed an entire 15-minute section with Emil talking about designing the Dark Brotherhood stuff, which is going to be its own thing.
That's going to be huge. People are going to love that, and I love that you focus on Emil. And I mean, people from QA, just the wide-ranging interviews, because it's so easy, I think, to go to Bethesda and be like, all right, Todd, sit down, tell me about the history of Elder Scrolls for the 6th time this month. You know what I mean? But just to have those varied voices, again, like Matt in there, the art director, all those people are so great to get on camera more and more.
Yeah, and I think that's the benefit of having the time that we do, right? Because when you guys go and do a cover story, you kind of have to pick your battles. Like, you know what it's like in pre-production. The more you shoot, the harder your job is. Like, if you film a couple of hours, then it's going to be a couple of hours. If you film what we did, which was like, I think 13 interviews, like, I don't know how like each one was at least an hour. Todd's was 2.5, I think. Like most of them were probably an hour and 30 minutes. Like that's a lot of footage. But what we try and do is like, we try and get as much of a like breadth of voices as possible, because we have the opportunity to do so. So like we're super about diversity, and not just like diversity in every form, like making sure that we have diversity of representation for sure. That's like a really intentional thing on our part, but also like diversity of sort of like perspective. So people who are at the top looking down, people who are at the bottom looking up, people who are in their own little weird silo of the project over here, people who collaborate a lot on teams. We try and cover it from every angle, and then also post and pre-release. So everyone from the concept artists who did stuff at the start, to programmers who were just like in it for like years, to the marketing people or community people who see it on the other end, or QA people. So you're trying to just kind of like, it reminds me of like, you know, if you take enough photographs of an object, you can build the 3D version of it. And it's kind of like that, where like I want to get as many perspectives of the whole thing as possible, so that by the time I get back and I have the responsibility of telling the story, that we have as accurate picture of it as possible. And making sure that we have a bunch of different types of voices is like critical to doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And God, it's so much to tackle, the entire history of that studio. I mean, that document could have been that length just about Skyrim alone, just about Morrowind alone, you know? So knowing like the scope you're going for, it's just crazy. And I'm amazed you got a week in there. What is that discussion like? Do you just pitch this doc and then try and map out exactly how much time it's going to take?
We're really honest about like what we need at the start, because the worst thing you can do is promise the world or promise your patrons that you're going to tell this story, and then you walk away and you don't have the footage. Like, oh man, like I've had that happen before at like, you know, preview events when I worked at GameSpot. There's nothing worse than being like, I should have asked that, or I should have done this. The conversation with them, you know, I can't get into the details too much, but like it started like pretty early this year. Like it was something we had on our radar for a long time. So I think my wheels in the back of my head of what I thought I wanted were spinning pretty early. So it just came to like, you know, they're like, what do you need? And I was like, minimum, like you're talking, you know, probably, you know, 5 days minimum of filming while we're there, probably closer to 7 if we can do it. And then it was a real case of when do we do it? Because we could have done it way earlier, but you know, you want to make sure that you get as especially when it came to 76, we want to be as close to knowing what they're going to show as possible, because there's no point in us releasing a doc about this game. You know, all anyone knows now is what was in that teaser, but like, you know, once the Bethesda showcase is all wrapped up, people will have a better perspective of what that is, and then we're going to try and continue that conversation. So we really need to know what they're going to show, and also we need to know what the game is, right, and what their plans are. So we ended up filming the end of the last week of April. So it was a pretty quick editing turnaround. But by that stage, I'd already, you know, I had an idea about the you know, the format of the doc, and then also I captured so much gameplay. And the way that I did it was basically like, okay, the first doc is 15 minutes. It's about Arena and Daggerfall. The next doc is 15 minutes. It's about Morrowind.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom. And they all ended up like being around that length in the end, and it was literally, this is why the nested frames thing, nested sequences, because I literally went doink 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 doink, and it was there, and it was like, okay, and then sort of did some pacing work, and that was it.
I'm amazed. I mean, you're still showing timelines and talking about how you're editing the 76 doc now. I mean, the idea that seems like it's coming in hot. That is so scary to promise such a big thing. And like, well, I just got to stay in this room with a pool table and speakers in the background there and just lock myself in here until it's done. It's amazing. But I want to focus on Bethesda in particular. Like, what struck you about the culture of that studio that maybe you didn't appreciate going in?
I'm not sure if it came across enough in the doc. I didn't lean on it too much because I didn't want it to look like we were doing too much of a puff piece. But the tenure there is like quite remarkable.
Yeah.
I think the average tenure is, what was it? It was something ridiculous. Like it was like 7 years or 8 years or something, which like you tend, like we've done documentaries on games that have come out in the past year where I've been approached by, you know, leads on those projects who are now already at different studios. Like, you know, from doing this work, right? Like people move around a lot
all
in
the
this
time.
industry. And it's not just like, I thought maybe it was something to do with the local area because we don't have that many, like I live down the road. I live in Maryland now. I live in Annapolis. So I drove to the studio every day. Like it's like a 40-minute drive on the Beltway to get to Bethesda. And it's basically us and then Firaxis are up in Baltimore. And that's kind of it. Like there's not that many devs here. But people travel like a lot. Like a lot of the people we interview have traveled across the country, have traveled to different countries. And for whatever reason, man, people seem to stay at that studio. And I'm, you know, not all studios are perfect. I'm sure there are people out there who have stories about getting, you know, overworked or not getting the job that they wanted or XYZ. And I'm not saying that Bethesda is divorced from that at all. I'm sure it's the same. But what I came across from there was that people are like super content there. And also it's not big. Like, yeah, they're sort of getting big now, but like we tried to touch on the amount of people who worked on every game throughout the doc, and like I think they finished Skyrim with like, was it 120 people?
It's like, just insane. Nothing. Every time you showed like a staff photo, it's always that thing of, I'm bad at math, but that can't be the entire team. I'm sure that's not the entire team.
And I'm sure they have like people, you know, creating, you know, assets maybe in a different country. Totally. Like that's become part of a lot of this stuff, right? Naughty Dog employs X amount of people in you know, some part of the world to make assets. Like I'm sure there's an element of that. I don't know. Like, but like when you know, let's compare Skyrim with like an Assassin's Creed, right? And then look at the amount of people who work on those. You're talking thousands. And then you look at Skyrim and it's, it's you can literally fit them in one photograph. So
Yeah, but Danny, it's a little bit janky. So come on, man.
exactly. Like you're 100% right. And I think what that made me feel like was like, oh, like I get it. Like to be independent, to be this small, and they are sort of in the, like, we don't think about Bethesda as an independent. ZeniMax isn't a public company, and it's not really a large conglomerate either. It's essentially an administrative wing that was created to make that so they didn't have to go bankrupt. Like it's kind of just might as well be called Bethesda or whatever. So it's an element of it, but generally, like, they are quite a small, like, I think we did a 6-part series on CD Projekt and their games. I think Bethesda's smaller than CD Projekt.
I think so, yeah.
So like, then compare that. Like when people compare all these games together, you're like, oh, right, like kind of makes sense. We think about them as these massive studios, probably because their track record has been like pretty good. Even if you think that like certain games, maybe a lot of people aren't super hot on Fallout 4, for instance, like, but like they've been pretty solid. So I think people compare them to other studios like that. But I'm starting to realize that some of the biggest studios, kind of like Rockstar as well, they're not actually that big. They're just like they're full of really talented people. And if you can keep people, like, that institutional knowledge is invaluable. And that's probably why they make their games so good, because they managed to retain all these super smart folks.
Absolutely. It's crazy when you have the insular communities. And it's interesting you brought up Firaxis being so close, because Firaxis is another one of those studios where Sid Meier's still, you can have lunch with them every day. Jake Solomon will never leave that place. He'll be buried in the hallway, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? It's just so crazy that some of those communities and cultures, just, I guess Game Informer is a way like that too. When you're remote, especially, people just stick around. We've had the same people for 300 years here in the Game Informer office,
right?
Outside of Dan. It's just wild that there's something that happens, though, something where they become like a colony and the culture gets a little bit different, I feel like, when it's not mixing so much. And I wonder, and I don't know what it is about Bethesda, but it certainly feels a little bit like a family and always just a little bit different than, the Ubisofts or the EAs of the world.
Right. I think it's very good that gaming is going through like a general change, and it's letting people, different voices and different people in. I think that's a really important part of our culture, be it design or coverage or whatever. But I also feel like there is, like, I don't know, like companies, especially managers, this reminds me of managers more than anything else, are so into the idea of like reinventing the wheel and having their stamp on something.
Yeah.
And I think when you have these studios that they have people who they haven't had that like top level changeover, perhaps. So you've had kind of Todd with his hands on the wheel since the sort of Morrowind days, right? And then you could say the same thing about Sid at Firaxis, or I'm sure there's other studios where this is the case as well. Gabe at Valve and whatnot. Well, maybe that's not the best example. I don't know. We're talking about games that are actually getting made. There's a studio I'm sure we both love to do something on.
Oh, God.
But I think that sort of helps, right? Is to have that guiding hand and allow that culture to be created. And I think that's probably one of those things that, like, that's what I love about you guys, because I certainly didn't necessarily feel that when I worked at GameSpot. I think one of the coolest things about the institutional knowledge that I felt there was the fact that Giant Bomb was just down the hall, and I was a massive fan of Jeff Gerstmann's my professional hero. He's the reason I wanted to do this stuff, was watching videos of him when I was growing up in Ireland, him and Rich Gallup and Ryan Davis and Vinny Caravella, and that was really important to me. But there is a lot of like shifting, especially in that Bay Area media space, I think, where people sort of like collaborate and do stuff. And I think that's kind of, it's cool in one way because it creates this sort of camaraderie. But I do feel like I would have wanted to have gone to a GameSpot that was a little bit more like weighted in its history. And oddly enough, I kind of felt like I was probably the one that cared about its history more than anyone else.
Oh, that's frustrating.
And I get it, right? Because you can, it was a difficult process in a way, because I didn't want to sort of like lord that over people or like make it a thing or whatever.
Right, because they can counter with, who cares? It's 2017, totally. It's 2016. Like, we got to move on here.
Yeah, like get with the times, and like stuff wasn't working obviously in the past, and you need to like evolve stuff as well. It's a different conversation, I think, like what you do and what you make and the culture you have. But I think it is cool that these studios and you guys and organizations like that have that sort of unique sort of culture to them.
For sure.
It's special.
And to think about Todd Howard, leading the show since Morrowind, like you mentioned, I mean, is there a more valuable single director in the industry than Todd Howard at this point? Like, you can say Miyamoto, but in terms of the last game he directed, I don't know, what was that, Wii Music? Like actual hands-on directing? I don't know, man. Like, I think it might be Todd, right?
It's always difficult to say because the pool of people who come to mind are also the people who are perhaps the more public people. Todd is probably less public than he was 5 years ago. He was sort of very public during the Oblivion and Skyrim stuff and things like that. It's not like I don't think he got on. Did he go on the stage last year at their showcase?
I don't think so. I think it was all Pete Hines.
Yeah. So like and then there were some there were studio leads like we did the Doom 2016 doc, right? And you've got Marty and Hugo who like a lot of people don't necessarily. They're not like household names, but man, oh man, did those dudes figure out a way of making that game good, and they'd worked on a bunch of stuff in the past and made that stuff good too. So there are like a lot of unsung folks, I'm sure, or people who are less likely to get in front of camera. But I think what impresses me about Todd is he's got a pretty good track record, like post red card maybe. Everything's been pretty solid, and to I asked him, and it came up at the end of the doc. We had a big chat about it, actually. A lot of it didn't make it in, but I think the most important thing was I asked him what he was most proud of, and it was the fact that he had people that stuck around at the studio. And ultimately, I think, you make your work and your games are good and you do whatever, but if you can create a place in which people, feel comfortable and they feel like they're part of a family and they want to stick around, then, like, that human element is more powerful than anything else. So
For sure.
I think in that way, he's probably one of the most successful in that way, at least.
Yeah, and I love that shot when you're in the theater and he makes a joke at the beginning, which I love as well. But also just the idea of him like reading off the anniversary names, and I feel like there is such a juicy thread to go down there, and I hope some of the future content goes into it, just about the idea of Bethesda expanding in such a big way to Austin and Montreal, and it seems like, oh boy, how can we keep this culture intact? How can Todd still maintain the tight ship and feel like the industry underdogs as they expand, which of course they need to, but that is going to be such a weird series of growing pains to watch.
Yeah, for sure. We touched on it a bit in the History of Bethesda doc about how they sort of call in their other studios.
Yeah.
That was a big part of the doc, was trying to explain the delineation between Bethesda Softworks being the publishing wing and BGS being that studio. Todd Howard's not responsible for Doom or what I mean, like, or Wes or whatever, like all these other things. And we'll sort of talk about that a bit more in terms of the growing pains of having that type of remote workplace, like having a studio that's bigger than the people you can see in the office at lunchtime, right? So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Their new direction. We'll get into it in the next video. I can't say too much because it's gone up beforehand. But I think if he's the type of person who's worked at a studio that was maybe 24 people working on Morrowind or whatever it was, maybe 36, and has expanded this much already, then perhaps the institutional knowledge of how to expand in a sustainable way is probably there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations on the Bethesda doc. I mean, you made the definitive history of one of the greatest game series of all time, which is quite an accomplishment, man.
I feel, thank you so much. You're too kind. I feel like I don't know. It's an emotional mixture of like pride and relief. Like I think this was in the it was coming down the road for so long, and now that it's in the sort of the rear view mirror, I feel most happy that I didn't drop the ball. That's kind of it. Like, maybe we could have done it better in some ways, or done it better in other ways, or it could be longer, or we could have asked more questions about this, or we forgot about this, or we didn't mention Ken Ralston, or there's all this stuff, right? But, like, you're never going to cover everything. But I feel at least like relief, and just like, it was good. It was fine. People seem to be enjoying it. I'm proud of it. And now I got to move on to the next one.
Fallout 76 one.
Totally. It's a constant, like, once that's what's fun about this stuff, is that, like, once you don't have time to rest on whether it was amazing or good or whatever, onto the next one, and just keep getting more experienced, I guess. That's what's fun about this work. It's like very creatively satisfying.
Do you want to do more of the preview content moving forward, or are you still? I saw your tweet where you're scared about falling into that trap of PR routine, the puff pieces. But do you want to, if Fallout 76 goes well, is that a future for you?
I think so, and I think the way of doing it is to go earlier. Is to go before way before a game is getting announced. Like, go years before a game is getting announced. So I would love to go. I would love to have a project running in the background for a significant amount of time. My hope is that this work will sort of try. We've had people reach out to us quite a bit, but I hope that this will open up a few more opportunities that way, and that we can work on something in secret in the background for a while, and have that. We're in such a weird position because like when we create this stuff, like they don't have Final Cut or anything. Like we give them early versions as a professional courtesy, so they can sort of like wrap their PR around it if they want.
So Losi can say, "Hey, blur out that screen behind you in that one interview shot."
We get there are some things we do in those videos that are that, and then there are some things that I do as red herrings for fun. So that is one of those.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You can I like making Reddit threads. It's fun. But I think what was I talking about?
More preview content. Getting
Sorry.
in earlier, doing like in progress, changing the tense of the entire documentary.
Yeah, so I think this sort of stuff opens doors. Oh yeah, we don't give people Final Cut, or we don't we give them an early version as professional courtesy, but ultimately the sort of the creative direction of this stuff is totally on us, and we allow them. The one thing we do is any like studio B-roll we shoot, we give them clearance over that, because maybe there's something in the shot that's not supposed to be there, or oftentimes you have people who don't necessarily want to be in the docs, and that's also like totally fine. So we give them clearance over that stuff. But in terms of the final product, it's all down to us, and we also don't necessarily like earn money from them. Like we don't sell them and we don't advertise on them. So as long as how many patrons do you have at the moment? 4,200. As long as I get 4,200 views, my job is done. So it puts us in a very interesting position where like we kind of have nothing to lose, and also they can't really control us. So because of that, there's a sort of there's a lot of trust. So it would be, I'm hoping that through the projects that we've done, that we can sort of get that type of trust in and get that legal stuff signed away so that we have that creative freedom. I'll never put Noclip in a position where we're working on something that I feel like I'm creatively hamstrung in that way, because I've always been a very like, editorial independence is very important. I've always had, I was a GameSpot fan. Like I was a fan when all that stuff went down. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that matters to me more than, I'm not doing this to make a bunch of money. Like if I wanted to make money, I'd go into private PR. I'd make docs for companies and charge them, 6 figures or whatever. But like, what's important to me is like doing really authentic work, and I want to do more previewy stuff, but I'll never do it if it means that we don't have that autonomy.
Yeah, I love it. The idea of you going in there with the outside perspective, and I wonder how much interaction you have with like in-house video teams. Because if I was that in-house video team with Bethesda, which I know they have, I'd be a little bit like, man, we should be doing this. Why are we letting an outsider who we don't necessarily trust do it? So like, what do you feel like you can do that they can't?
I don't necessarily think there's anything that we can do that they can't. I think from a production standpoint, they can do anything we can. I think the difference, and I talked to Todd about this, because he watches Noclip stuff, and he's like a fan of the series, and that's kind of how this came together. And I think, we didn't put in a doc because it's nothing to do with them. It's like I'm not going to put a doc about how he enjoys Noclip stuff.
Chapter 3, Noclip rules.
Right? Yeah. That's us. We rule. But I think what we have is it's an external filter. It's someone else telling the story. It's not them telling the story, right? So I think that's the sort of risk reward that studios enter with us, in that we're not going to let them dictate the message of the video. Like the Final Fantasy 14 doc's probably a good version of that.
Yeah.
Where, like,
oh my god.
First section's basically about how they f***ed up. Right?
Totally.
Like it's a 40-minute thing about how bad that managerial situation was and the direction and everything that went on. But they also get their story told in a more like authentic way than they could even do themselves, right? And I think, we add that to the story. So it's very important to me to not do puff pieces that way, because essentially all we're doing then is we're becoming mouthpieces for them. And this project has been the toughest of that on both of them, because
Right.
one of them is basically a celebratory, retrospective, nostalgic wet dream, and then the other one is, there's no getting away from the fact that we are almost certainly an extension of their E3 marketing plan, right? I can't get away from that. I can't not get away from that. What I can do is make sure that we are in control of the final product, and that I edit the thing that says all the things I want to say about this thing that isn't influenced by them. So this was the most challenging from an optics perspective, for sure. The first hurdle, I think, has been crossed. I think people vibed with that one. So I'm just working hard now to make sure the second one is too.
Yeah. You feeling good about the second documentary too?
Yeah, I am. It's very different to the first one, shorter. So people won't have to,
Make
take
an
a half
evening
day
of
off
it.
Work. Yeah, which we've had some people who called in sick to work to watch it, so that's always fun. And it's obviously a different type of conversation as well. So it's been fun to work on the two of them. It's been fun to put the other one, to have it out, and when I hit publish, it's always like I hope there's not 10 minutes of black screen in this video, because YouTube doesn't let you replace the videos, right? It's got to redo it.
Oh god.
And it takes a while to render a 90-minute video in whatever bit rate we export the bloody things on. So it was nice to have that done and then focus on this other thing, we started editing both of them weeks ago, so it's not like I just started on this thing 2 days ago. But it's been fun. It's been a different type of challenge. Excited to show it at E3. We're showing it on Keeley's stage.
Oh, really?
Which will be fun. Yeah, it's going to go live on YouTube around the same time. But we're going to show it live on the Keeley's E3 Coliseum.
Do you have some jokes in there, or is there certain things you're waiting for a big reaction from the audience for?
Is there? I don't know if there's any. Oh, there'll be big reactions from the audience for sure on a lot of it. Well, it all depends on what gets talked about on Sunday, I guess. But I showed the only time I've ever watched or shown anything that I'd worked on in public was at GDC. We showed our Horizon Zero Dawn doc.
Oh yeah.
And I heard people laughing at one of the things. It was like the weirdest feeling ever. Right before the punchline, because I knew the punchline was coming, and I was like, "Oh, this is a joke." Right before it happened, tensed up, and then they laughed, and I was like, "Ah." It's okay. So, I kind of hate watching things that I've made in front of other people, and this time I have to watch it not only in front of an audience of people, but also with Jeff Keighley to one side and Todd Howard on the other.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, that's going to be. I'm very privileged and lucky to have this job. That is going to be. I'm going to have a real tense butthole for that whole.
And I don't know if you're showing new gameplay footage or anything in there. Can you say if you are?
I can't say, unfortunately.
Okay, gotcha. But it's got to be tough. I mean, roping it back into that whole preview temptation of there's a juicy nugget somewhere here. If I just pull that out on my YouTube channel, it'll get a gazillion hits. It's the most well-produced video that will exist about Fallout 76 at this time. Do you find yourself steering away from that temptation of if I just dissect this for news, I could have 60 pullouts from this one YouTube video if I really wanted to?
It's hard, man, because it's especially when I came from that world of really trying to justify your content, especially when you work in an organization. I'm sure you feel this as well, right? Where you need to the numbers need to stack up a little bit, right? Getting views on stuff. There's a connective tissue between that, whether or not it's accurate or not, to your sort of professional worth, right? So and I'm not divorced from that. Subscribers are really important, right? We're almost into about 250,000 now, and that's
awesome.
Really cool. And if we had 10,000, then I'd feel differently about it, I'm sure. But it's not the main driving force. So, for instance, the example we would have had with that prior would have been the Doom doc, where we had footage of 4, but it's not we could have just unedited put up the footage of Doom 4, but we didn't, because that's not what we're doing, and it's hard because you wanna, because you're here it is, and other people have. I mean, there's a video with God knows a couple of 100,000 views. Maybe more, actually. I don't know, of that bit clipped out with some metal music over the top or whatever, and Mick Gordon thrashing away.
But you call it Noclip for a reason, for Christ's sake here.
Exactly right. And it's also, as part of that rationale, it's also the reason why I don't watermark the videos, because
interesting.
That's the way around it, right? But then, f off. Part of what I think is, I feel is fun about this. I feel I'm reading a book, Amanda Palmer's book at the moment, which is sort of all about art to art and the relationship between you and the audience and stuff. And what I feel about the stuff that we make is that like ultimately when it goes on YouTube, it doesn't belong to me anymore. Like I'm gonna die. I could die tomorrow. I could die 50 years from now. But like I'm gonna die, and this stuff's gonna exist. And I don't own it. I don't own any of the stuff we have on 76. Right? That belongs to our patrons, and it also just belongs to the world of video games. So that's why I don't try and do that stuff. If people want to pull out, they're gonna dissect the shit out of every frame of the 76 one. I know they are. Yeah. And if I wanted to, I could figure out a clever way of like monetizing that or getting views out of it. Someone else can. They can put it on their YouTube channel. I don't necessarily care. Like as long as people aren't doing something, you know, crazy in copying our entire docs or stuff like that sort of stuff, I'll put a stamp out if I can. But like in terms of just pulling this stuff out, like no, it's a privilege to be part of the wider conversation in games. If Noclip can be part of that, then that's super rad. So, you know, they can do what they want with it.
Danny, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this before, but you're doing everything right. And it's it is amazing. I look up to you. I think you're doing a great job. I'm endlessly jealous. It's like, God, every single note he's hitting is just perfect. Communication, output, tone. God damn it, Danny.
You're too kind. I'm in a really lucky position where this is the one thing I get to focus on. And I do feel like there's two parts of it. One, I feel like I need to do the best, you know, job with the opportunity that I've been given. So if I wasn't doing the work and making people proud of it, then I'd feel bad. And the other thing is that like if someone else was in this position, then they'd have that similar success. Maybe they'd be more successful. Like I feel like it's not without its challenges. Like it's tough working on your own. I live in the middle of nowhere at the moment. That's why I have this this isn't mine. This is the landlord's pool table. But like I live in like, you know, the woods. There's like woods out here. I can't see my neighbors. It's you know, it's tough doing this sort of stuff and working autonomously. It's difficult in its own ways. But I do feel like, you know, we're well funded. We have a bunch of really good patrons. We have a great audience. We have a lot of like incredible, you know, people who push our work out, like yourself, or, you know, people who talk about it and celebrate it. And yeah, like who knows, like it could all fall apart tomorrow. So you just got to make hay while the sun is shining and try and make sure that the work is good. And, you know, if it all falls apart at one stage, and you did the best job, and then you get on to the next adventure.
Right on, man. It's so nice to see you busting your ass in honor of game developers who are busting their ass for an extended period of time. But it's a nice tip of the cap in the way that you can. So keep up the good work, man. Where should people go if they want to support you?
Patreon.com/Noclip if you want to just find out about our work, or, you know, or chip in if you want to. It's fine. You know, we're well funded already, but we always appreciate more people coming in because there's always a bit of a churn of people, especially the past couple of months. We dipped to our lowest point for a while, just because we were so quiet. So hoping to recoup some of that. But like aside from like people don't need to. What I most importantly, the place people should go is check out Noclip on YouTube. It's Noclip Video. If you search for Noclip, it'll come up. Yeah, we've got over a dozen documentaries on everything from Doom to Rocket League, Spelunky, The Witness, Final Fantasy 14, The Witcher 1, 2, and 3. We did one of Frog Fractions, Horizon Zero Dawn, Warframe, and now a bunch of Bethesda stuff. So it's all there to watch. Oh, and John Romero. I can't believe I left it.
Oh, he's listening. He's pissed. He's so pissed.
Yeah, he's got him and Brendan Player Unknown Green, who we also did a profile, are going to be super pissed. Go watch it, enjoy it, celebrate games, celebrate people who make them, and yeah, hit subscribe maybe as well.
There we go. I love you, Danny. But if you get to do that No Man's Sky exhaustive documentary before I do, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. Just so you know, this is an arms race.
As long as Sean talks to one of us, man, somebody needs to get that one.
Oh, someone needs to dive in deep. But all right, Danny, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in maybe this Saturday for a bonus episode, but most likely Thursday for the next episode. So yeah.